Chapter 10:18. When Ling Yun was at Nirvana's level, it wasn't that different from the other Timeless Arc ships. However, at the unparalleled level, the gap was instantly widened. By integrating the Thunderclap flag and the Zodion star array diagram, at the unparalleled level, one would be able to fight against a primordial chaos saint. Moreover, one would not be like Nuwa, who had just broken through or had become a saint through merit. Instead, he was comparable to a peak early-stage primordial chaos expert, or even a fourth-stage primordial chaos expert. This was only in terms of combat power. His life preservation ability was even stronger. Even a seventh-stage primordial chaos expert might not necessarily be able to kill him. This was also the reason why Hong Jun hesitated when they were in the Purple Cloud Palace. He did not deal with Fang Qingshan in a thunderous manner. Instead, he tolerated him and agreed to the terms of the deal. Then, he switched to using an overt plot. Even back then, Hong Jun did not have absolute confidence in winning. And when Wu Shuang broke through to unparalleled, it would be even more amazing. Before the eternal blessing, he had actually broken through to the critical point of the sixth-stage primordial chaos realm. Once he broke through, he would at least have the combat strength of a seventh-stage primordial chaos expert. It would not be a problem for him to escape from a perfected primordial chaos expert. Due to these reasons, Fang Qingshan and the Thunder Emperor both sensed the everlasting Lotus's approval. That was why they had gained so much this time. Great, this is great. I didn't expect the eternal blessing to be so great this time. Most importantly, I got to observe the charm and outline of the everlasting Lotus. I can use this opportunity to deduce the cultivation method of the 12 chaotic prime realms of the all-heaven Tao verification technique. The Bodhi tree, the enlightenment futon, the chaos spiritual liquid, and the eternal blessing. Fang Qingshan's perception had risen to a terrifying level. His entire body and mind were immersed in the rhythm of the Great Path. Countless great paths were almost directly presented in front of him without any concealment. In fact, he could even pour it into his body in nascent divinity. Only the Lord of the Timeless Arc could have such an opportunity. Primordial Chaos's previous cultivation was to confirm a great Tao, perfect it, and then control a great Tao. From then on, one would become one with the Great Path. As long as the Great Path was not destroyed, one would be immortal. The stronger one's Great Path was, the greater one's potential would be. Fang Qingshan was the same. He was sure of the great Tao of the 5 elements, and he had always been cultivating and perfecting it. He used thousands of great Taos to complete the 5 elements. In the end, he used the severing 3 corpses art to sever the metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Then, he used the primordial violet chi to combine the 5 elements into one and completely control the 5 elements' laws, just like the demonic god of 5 elements in the past. Because Fang Qingshan had taken the path of breaking through both his physical body and primordial spirit, it could be said that apart from his cultivation, Fang Qingshan could not compare to the 5 elements devil god of the past. Now, he was a living 5 elements devil god. This was the cultivation before primordial chaos. The cultivation after primordial chaos was the cultivation of nomological laws. Actually, before Zhu Wu or Hong Jun created the beheading 3 corpses, everyone was comprehending the nomological path. It was just that this path was too difficult. Didn't you see that the 12th Zhu Wu didn't succeed, even when he died? Even when Nuwa became a sage, she had only comprehended the creation nomological law to the 9th level. Even though there was only a difference of 1 level, to comprehend the final level, Nuwa probably wouldn't be able to do it even if she didn't condense the golden wheel of merit and used all her Tao enlightenment. After all, this was a top-notch nomological law that was above the 5 elements. Nuwa also knew this, so she didn't go all out in one go. After saying so much, what she actually wanted to say was that it was too difficult to comprehend nomological laws. Moreover, although the nomological laws before and after primordial chaos were comprehended, they were obviously 2 different worlds. Before primordial chaos, it was continuous control until one completely grasped a great Tao. After primordial chaos, it was continuous condensation so that the great Tao that one controlled would transform and condense into an immortal substance. This would completely make the great Tao immortal and indestructible. The great Tao was immortal until the transformation was complete and one broke through to the 12th level. This level was called immortal. What was immortal? In fact, it meant that one wouldn't be worn down by time. In other words, as long as there were no accidents, one could really live forever. However, there was actually another level between the immortal and the 12th level of primordial chaos. It was called the Deva Decay. In fact, this level originally didn't exist, just like the quasi-sage. It was just that it was too difficult to break through to the immortal level from the 12th level of primordial chaos, so it was divided. To break through to the primordial chaos and become immortal, one had to survive the Deva Decay. In fact, Desolation Hongjun Tiandao was currently at this level. However, he didn't need to undergo the Deva Decay, but he would face the great calamity of apocalypse. The Deva Decay was something that people at the 12th level of primordial chaos would turn pale at the mention of. This was because they would obtain huge benefits after surviving it. They would break through to the immortal level and continue to pursue a higher eternal great Tao. However, if they couldn't survive it, they would be completely annihilated and wouldn't even have the chance to be reincarnated. Therefore, many people didn't dare to try it easily. They would find all kinds of ways to reduce the power of the Deva Decay, delay the arrival of the Deva Decay, or directly avoid the Deva Decay and not transcend the tribulation. Back then, Yang Mei and the others had been like this. They didn't have absolute confidence, so they knew that dealing with Pan Gu could reduce the power of the Deva Decay. That was why they attacked him together. Unfortunately, although they didn't die from the Deva Decay in the end, they were annihilated by Pan Gu. Fortunately, if they died from the Deva Decay, they wouldn't have a chance at all. If they were annihilated by Pan Gu, they would still have a chance to make a comeback. For example, Ro was the reincarnation of the destruction demon god, Desolation, the ancestral dragon, the Sky Phoenix, the Origin Qilin, and the others were also reincarnations of the demon gods. The Chaos Demon God took the path of reducing the Deva Decay, while the Desolation Hongjun Tiandao took the path of delaying the Deva Decay. Therefore, he constantly created the cataclysm to wear down the tribulation aura and delay the arrival of the Deva Decay. This way, not only could he control the desolation perfectly, but he could also accumulate more resources. As for whether he could successfully transcend the tribulation, it was actually still unknown, because there were too many variables. However, one thing was for sure. As long as he was strong enough and lucky enough, he could definitely increase his chances of transcending the tribulation. Luck was not easy to control. Even the Origin immemorial Hongjun Tiandao couldn't figure it out. He could only continue to accumulate luck and merit. Luck was fine, but merit was different. The merit in the Desolation Hongjun Tiandao merit, and even the Great Path merit in the Chaos were of no help in transcending the tribulation. It had to be the primordial Origin merit. Unfortunately, that kind of merit was something that could only be obtained by chance. Therefore, the best way was still to strengthen himself. He needed to forge the iron himself. As long as he was strong, he could deal with all the dangers. At the same time, he could seize the opportunity when the opportunity came. Otherwise, even if the opportunity came, it would be useless if he couldn't seize it. His strength was first reflected in the laws and great paths that he had comprehended. In a situation of the same level, it was obvious that high-level laws were better than low-level laws, and top-level laws were better than high-level laws. Secondly, it depended on whether the great path that he had mastered was flawless. This step was also very crucial. Chapter 1019. The perfection of the laws and the origin was crucial. Just like Styx in the past, more or less, because of the imperfection of the origin, he missed the opportunity to achieve the great path and finally wasted half of his life. If it could be perfect, it would naturally have extraordinary potential and no flaws. Naturally, its defense would soar. If the Great Path was imperfect, it could be stopped for the rest of its life, or even die under the terrible Dave of decay. The desolation of Hongjun Tiandao was like this. 50 Great Paths, 49 Dave of decay, but one was missing. That was why Hongjun used his body to merge with the Great Path and repaired Hongjun Tiandao. That was why he kept delaying the arrival of the immeasurable tribulation and did not dare to take the last step. The Great Path of the Five Elements is just a high-level law. Although it is enough for me now, there's a big gap between the foundation and the top law. It will obviously hold me back when I break through to the immortal realm in the future. Therefore, this time with the eternal blessing, I not only want to create a faster and more perfect way to condense the immortal substance, but also to deduce how to transform the five elements law into the top law. Fang Qingshan took a deep breath and made a decision in his heart. He had a very clear understanding of his own Tao. Moreover, he already had a solution in his heart. As for the direction of the next step of deduction, he already had a general plan in his heart. The goal was very clear. Originally, there was no need to be so anxious. However, seeing the battle between Hongjun and Yang Mei, coupled with the advancement of the timeless arc and the opportunity to observe the outline and charm of the everlasting lotus, suddenly pushed Fang Qingshan to this point. He could only push the boat with the current and continue to move forward. The eternal blessing was the most perfect environment for deduction. This was the origin of the Great Path, the most perfect place in the world to comprehend the Tao, more perfect than any other place in the world. If you don't take what the heavens give, you will be punished. Fang Qingshan immediately immersed his mind in the eternal blessing. He was distracted for two purposes. One of his thoughts was on how to deduce a faster way to condense the immortal substance according to the outline and charm of the everlasting lotus, and to condense a more solid immortal substance. He focused all his attention on how to transform the five elemental laws into top-tier laws. Time, space, fate, karma, creation, destruction, chaos, yin, yang, three powers for symbols, five elements, 7 stars, 8 trigrams, creation, force, lightning. At this moment, Fang Qingshan felt as if he had obtained the Good Fortune Jade Disc, and it was even more effective than the Good Fortune Jade Archive. The 3,000 Great Paths were displayed before him. Regardless of whether it was a low-level, high-level, or top-level nomological law, everything was there. He had seen it before, had not seen it before, knew it, and did not know it all appeared in front of him. At this moment, the two halves of Fang Qingshan's mind forgot about time and their own situation. They were completely immersed in this enlightenment. The eternal blessing was constantly condensing in their souls, constantly affecting their bodies and everything about them. The Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets all things. The five elements are the foundation of the world, and all the great paths of the world can evolve from them. The five elements can merge into yin and yang, and transform into the 8 trigrams. However, be it yin and yang or the 8 trigrams, they are still high-level nomological laws. Hence, they can only continue to evolve. The 8 trigrams can give birth to all things in the world, and it can become the world Tao. It can also lead to endless creation. Yin and yang are divided into light and darkness, life and death, and night and night. When combined, they can form chaos and reincarnation. However, be it creation, world, chaos, or reincarnation, they're all top-level nomological laws. If it's the tree of world, there's no need to hesitate and can directly choose the world Tao. If it's the mosquito Daoran, then he will definitely choose the path of slaughter to evolve into destruction, or devour to evolve into nothingness. However, if it's the main body, whether it's the world Tao, the chaos Tao, the reincarnation Tao, or the creation Tao, none of them will be easy to choose. Fang Qingshan's eyes swept across the great paths of the eternal blessing one by one. His mind was working furiously as he pondered which great path would be the most suitable for him. In the path of cultivation, only the one that was most suitable for him was the best. Actually, Fang Qingshan did not have to think about transforming the 5 elemental nomological laws into top-level nomological laws. After all, top-level nomological laws and high-level nomological laws were not unchanging. However, it was too difficult to break through such a barrier. The Chaos Thunder Emperor, the Chaos Massacre Demon God, the Chaos Demon Ape, and so on. These high-level demon gods were no weaker than top-level demon gods in terms of combat strength. They challenged time and time again in an attempt to replace top-level nomological laws. However, in the end, they all failed. The only one who succeeded was probably Pangu. The Great Path of Force was definitely not a top-level nomological law in the beginning. It was probably not even a high-level nomological law. However, after Pangu, it became a top-level Great Path. It was even superior to fate, karma, time, and space. There was a saying that a single force could defeat all techniques, a single force could break all techniques, and that there was nothing that could not be overcome. Unfortunately, after Pangu, no one else had been able to reach this stage. Thus, one could see how difficult it was to upgrade a high-level nomological law to a top-level nomological law. Although Fang Qingshan thought highly of himself, he was not so arrogant as to think that he was more powerful than the Chaos Demon Ape and the others. Of course, this was only for now. It was hard to say in the future. Putting all of this aside, time was of the essence now. Every thousandth of an instant was an immeasurable fortune, and it couldn't be delayed. Not to mention what others would think if he delayed it. Even Fang Qingshan himself wouldn't be able to forgive himself if he missed out on such a fortuitous encounter. This wasn't just a reckless waste of God's gifts. It was simply a blasphemy against the Grand Tao. Thus, Fang Qingshan quickly made up his mind. Chaos, world, reincarnation, creation. The first two that Fang Qingshan eliminated were world and creation. The world Tao was very suitable for the world tree's clone, but it was not suitable for him. There were too many nomological laws that needed to be comprehended to walk the world Tao. Even if he could split his attention to billions of things, it would still consume too much time. Thus, in the various worlds, there was almost no one who walked this Tao and became a top-level expert. Other than the Hongjun Tiandao world or the world tree that had attained Tao, very few people walked this path. As for why he gave up on the creation Tao, it was because Fang Qingshan felt that his personality and the Great Path were somewhat different. Furthermore, Goddess Nviwa had broken free from the shackles of the Yin-Yang demon god and comprehended the Tao of creation. However, she had only comprehended the 9th level of the Tao of creation, one of the 3 Taos of heaven and earth. One could imagine how difficult this Tao was. Thus, only the Chaos Tao and Reincarnation Tao were left. As for these 2 Tao, Fang Qingshan had not made up his mind on which one to choose. However, he felt that they were both suitable for him. This was because the Chaos Tao was actually an inclusive Tao. Yin and Yang could return to chaos. The 5 elements could return to chaos. The 8 trigrams, the 7 stars, the 4 symbols, the 3 talents, and the Zodiac star could all return to chaos. In other words, he walked the path of using all the Taos in the world to support himself. This was somewhat similar to Fang Qingshan's cultivation of the 5 elements. He used the great paths of Yin and Yang, space-time, destiny, thunder, and sword to refine the 5 elements. As for the reincarnation Tao, it was because of the life and death gourd. Chapter 10:20. Life and Death Gourd. Huti used it to form an alliance with Fang Qingshan. Although this treasure contains the law of life and death, it is not the law of reincarnation, but just like destruction to killing, fate to fate, time to time, and wood to withering, the law of life and death is a branch of the law of reincarnation. Understanding the law of life and death is definitely a great benefit to understanding the law of reincarnation. Then there is the blood sea of Mosquito Dowrin, which is where the future reincarnation will be. Moreover, Hutu can transform the law of reincarnation. Fang Qingshan believes that it must not be just because Hutu is suitable, but because Pangu left the Wu people. There must be the reincarnation demon god's blood essence, remnant body, or treasure. If he can get it, the way of reincarnation will definitely be easier. In addition, in fact, Fang Qingshan has also practiced the law of reincarnation. That was when he was in a mortal world. He got the great reincarnation technique of the Netherworld Emperor from Fang Han. However, at that time, he focused on the way of the five elements and did not practice the way of reincarnation. Even if he practiced it, he used it to evolve the five elements. Of course, although the great reincarnation technique of a mortal world represents the law of reincarnation, it is obviously the most basic of the basics. Compared with what Fang Qingshan has to comprehend now, it is obviously not the same. However, it can also play some auxiliary role. This is a story later. Let's not mention it for the time being. Now, Fang Qingshan has not decided to cultivate the chaos path or the reincarnation path. Naturally, he will observe both together. Although it will waste a lot of energy, there is no other way. After all, it is related to his own path, and he needs to be cautious. Once it goes wrong, it will be difficult to turn back. A small boat is easy to turn around. This is different from when he abandoned his cultivation and recultivated. Once it is set, unless there is a great opportunity, it is basically a done deal. Although it was more rewarding to focus on one path, with the timeless arc, Fang Qingshan was confident that he would be able to prepare for the next eternal blessing. When that time came, it would not be too late to do it in one go. After confirming the chaos and reincarnation Grand Daos, Fang Qingshan abandoned all other Grand Daos, whether it was his own five elements Grand Daos, or the powerful force Grand Daos, destiny Grand Daos, and space-time Grand Daos. He focused all his attention on chaos and reincarnation. The reason for this was naturally because there was a time limit to the eternal blessing, and his own comprehension ability and energy were limited as well. Observing two Grand Daos was already too much for him to bear, let alone allowing him to swallow everything in one go. Swallowing everything in one go wouldn't be worth a loss in the end, so he had to make a choice. If he wanted to learn from the strong points of others, then he first had to cultivate his own Grand Dao well. Only then could he draw on other Grand Daos to extract the essence and get rid of the impurities. Otherwise, he would end up like Murong Fu, picking up sesame seeds and throwing away watermelons. He would have the reputation of giving someone a taste of his own medicine, but his martial arts would be far inferior to a true expert's. He had to be willing. Only with sacrifice could he gain. For a moment, the thousands of Grand Daos were like the receding tide, gradually drifting away. Meanwhile, the two Grand Daos that represented reincarnation and chaos appeared even more clearly in front of him. He could see them and touch them. The Grand Dao of chaos was gray and hazy. It seemed like there was nothing, but it also seemed like there was everything. There was nothing because all the Grand Daos had been dissolved within. This was the Grand Dao of all Grand Daos. The Grand Dao of everything was derived from the Grand Dao of all Grand Daos. As for the Grand Dao of reincarnation, it derived from the memories of the six paths of reincarnation and the underworld in Fang Qingshan's mind. However, compared to his memories, the Grand Dao of reincarnation here was clearly clearer. It was almost tangible, as if he was there himself. Moreover, the Grand Dao of reincarnation and the Grand Dao of reincarnation were enough to calm one's heart. One part of Fang Qingshan's mind confirmed the Grand Dao he had comprehended, and then he devoted himself to it. The other part of his mind was not idle either. According to the outline and charm of the everlasting lotus that had been projected into his primordial spirit, he combined it with other Grand Daos and slowly formed a Grand Dao lotus diagram. The reason why it was called the Grand Dao lotus diagram and not the everlasting lotus diagram was because this visualization technique was based on the outline and charm of the everlasting lotus. This was because although this visualization method was based on the outline and charm of the eternal green lotus, it was not as simple as it seemed. However, it was truly formed because of the Grand Dao lotus, which was the 36th-tier creation green lotus. Fang Qingshan had obtained Pangu's sky-opening mark, and Pangu was born for the creation green lotus. This item was also his ultimate treasure. Pangu naturally knew the creation green lotus very well. In addition, Fang Qingshan's current natal spiritual treasure, the 5 elements flags, was also formed from the lotus leaves of the creation green lotus. He also had the 12th tier red lotus of fire, the 3rd tier black lotus of destruction, the golden lotus of merit, and so on. Combining all of these, Feng Qingshan was able to quickly perfect this visualization technique. It was like the first ray of light in the chaos, like the first sprouting grass after the arrival of spring. A tender bud broke out of its shell. It was a bit of gentle green, growing bit by bit at a speed visible to the naked eye. After an unknown amount of time, perhaps a dozen breaths, or perhaps 1,000 or 10,000 years, a lotus stem, 3 lotus leaves, and a green lotus bud that had yet to bloom appeared. Even though Feng Qingshan was able to create the Tier 3 Great Path Green Lotus visualization diagram, because of the creation green lotus, it was still not perfect. If he wanted to continue perfecting it, he would need to refine the Tao of other great paths and Taoist auras. To refine a grand Tao, he obviously needed to learn from others, just like how Feng Qingshan created the All Heavens Tao verification method, Earth Immortal, Golden Immortal, Zenith Heaven, and Primordial Chaos back then. He needed to absorb the advantages of other cultivation methods, Grand Tao, and divine powers into this newly created Grand Tao Lotus diagram. Only then could this cultivation method be perfected faster. On this point, Feng Qingshan could be considered an old horse that knew the way. He had a direction in his heart. At this moment, he was in the mysterious land of the origin of the Tao, the Grand Tao of heaven and earth. He could clearly feel it. Comprehending here for a breath was equivalent to cultivating for hundreds or even thousands of years in the outside world. Feng Qingshan naturally would not waste such a great opportunity. With a thought, the many scriptures in the Sutra Pavilion in the Timeless Ark appeared in Feng Qingshan's mind. Where there were treasures, there were treasure realms and Jai Xing Tower. Where there were scriptures, there was naturally a Sutra Pavilion. As Feng Qingshan traveled the universe and even traded in the ruins market, there were 4 things that he valued the most. The first was fate, merit, and power of will. These seemed illusory, but they really existed and had a great impact. The second was cultivation methods. Whether it was the All Heavens Tao verification method, the 9 transformations technique, the Hongjun Golden Court scripture, or other divine powers like the Purple Heaven Thunder, the Dutian Thunder, the One Breath Sanqing, or the various nomological cultivation methods, the 100 arts of true cultivation, all kinds of pill recipes, formation diagrams, and so on. Whether it was high level or low level, as long as it was not in the Sutra Pavilion, Feng Qingshan would collect it, because these were the crystallization of wisdom. As the saying went, there were 1,000 readers and there were 1,000 hamlets. Chapter 1021. The same cultivation technique and divine ability could lead to different Taos if cultivated by different people. This was what Feng Qingshan valued the most. Other than that, there were all kinds of spirit root seeds. Like cultivation techniques and divine abilities, Feng Qingshan would collect them and plant them in the various worlds as long as he didn't have them. As for numinous treasures and materials, they were ranked last. As for the Sutra Depository, just like the Treasure Realm and Jiaxing Lu, it was evolved by Feng Qingshan using a heaven and earth unique treasure. The other functions of this item were fine, but what Feng Qingshan valued the most was the function of perfection and deduction. In other words, no matter what cultivation technique was placed in the Sutra Depository, if it was incomplete, the Sutra Depository would take the initiative to deduce it, helping to perfect this technique and make up for the incomplete parts. If it was complete, then he could continue to deduce it. For example, a complete cultivation technique with only 7 levels could only be cultivated to the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. But after being perfected in the Sutra Depository, it could be deduced to 9 levels, 10 levels, and cultivated to the Sage to Be or even Primordial Chaos Realm. This function was very powerful. Of course, it wasn't without limitations. Low-level divine ability cultivation techniques were fine. Once it reached the intermediate level, the speed of improvement and deduction was shockingly slow, not to mention the high-level and top-level ones. That would need to be calculated in units of eras and cataclysms. Of course, it wasn't that there was no way to make up for it. The more scriptures he collected, the more powerful and comprehensive they were, and the faster the speed of improvement and deduction. Therefore, Fang Qingshan had been collecting all kinds of scriptures all these years, not only because he wanted to learn from others, but also because he wanted to perfect and deduce the ability of the Sutra Depository. Putting these aside for the time being, the Sutra Pavilion automatically instilled all kinds of cultivation techniques after the primordial chaos, visualization techniques, tips for condensing immortal matter, records about the green lotus of creation, the green lotus of eternity, and all kinds of top-notch lotus treasures into Fang Qingshan's mind. The flow of information was so powerful that normally, even if it did not explode, it would still heavily injure Fang Qingshan's soul and make him sleepy. But at this moment, he was immersed in the boundless ocean of the eternal blessing, constantly absorbing the laws of the great path that he needed from the countless great paths. He easily carried it all, quickly sorting and summarizing, extracting the essence and discarding the impurities, constantly perfecting the great path green lotus visualization diagram. For a moment, it was as if his entire mind had completely fused with the great Tao. There were all sorts of insights in his mind. All kinds of cultivation techniques and dharmic gates flashed continuously. Life and Death Change Sutra, 100 Demons Night Parade Scripture, 6 Paths of Reincarnation Scripture, 18 Levels of Hell Visualization, Siddhagarbha Sutra, less than 18 Secrets to Condensing Immortality, Hongjun Huangting Jing, Pangu's Supreme Technique, all sorts of cultivation techniques and manuals that involved visualization, the cultivation of primordial chaos, and the condensation of immortal essence flashed through his mind, constantly circulating and interacting with each other. The collision produced sparks of wisdom. The great Tao green lotus visualization diagram was rapidly filling up, absorbing thousands of cultivation techniques and wisdom, turning them into spirit rain nourishment poured onto the third stage lotus, causing it to become even more crystalline. The lotus leaves were emerald green, and the stem was soft and straight. However, third stage was still third stage, and there were no signs of it blooming. It was a 12-stage primordial chaos cultivation technique, after all. If it were not for Fang Qingshan's observation of the everlasting lotus's outline and charm, as well as the memories of the creation lotus in Pan Gu's mark of creation, this great Tao green lotus visualization diagram wouldn't even be able to bloom first stage, much less third stage. There were many other cultivation techniques, but most of them were below the primordial chaos level. After all, Fang Qingshan's cultivation hadn't broken through to the primordial chaos level, so there were very few primordial chaos cultivation techniques and divine arts that he could trade for. Therefore, although the collection in the Sutra Depository was quite plentiful, there weren't many that could really be turned into nourishment for the great Tao green lotus visualization diagram. In the outside world, all they could see was that the Nirvana ship was completely enveloped by the green divine light. Waves of mysterious energy were emitted from the divine light and quickly integrated into the sky ship. The speed at which the ship was transforming increased. At that moment, the aura of the timeless arc, or rather, the aura of the Thunder Emperor, had broken through from the 6th-stage primordial chaos realm to the 7th-stage primordial chaos realm. Furthermore, it wasn't just entering the 7th-stage primordial chaos realm. It had almost reached the peak of the 7th-stage primordial chaos realm. Although it hadn't broken through to the 8th stage, it had jumped 3 levels, which was commendable. After all, cultivation was cultivation, and combat power was combat power. Although the aura was only at the peak of the 7th stage, its combat power wasn't any weaker than the 8th stage or 9th stage. Even if it faced a perfected or 10th stage primordial chaos expert, it would still be easy for it to escape. This was the combined strength of the Timeless Arc and the Thunder Emperor. As for the worlds and the Sail Unit worlds on the Timeless Arc, they were also growing and transforming rapidly. They were constantly expanding. Although they still hadn't broken the shackles and advanced to a new realm, their foundation had become stronger. As for the other Eternal Unit weapons, they were the same as the worlds. Under the nourishment of the eternal blessing, they had broken the limits and improved. However, this improvement wasn't an improvement to a new realm. It was just a breakthrough of the limit. On the other hand, although the life and death gourd hadn't broken through, the mysterious power of the eternal blessing had greatly repaired the damage it had suffered in the past. The life and death gourd used to be the accompanying spiritual treasure of the chaotic advanced demon god, the life and death demon god. It wasn't inferior to the massacred demon god's godslayer. During the great heaven-opening tribulation, it had been attacked by the sky-splitting axe and the Dutian thunder. Although it hadn't been completely separated like the thunder spear, its foundation had been greatly consumed. If it was lucky, it could still retain the connate cardinal treasure. If it was not, it would be like the godslayer dropping a top-notch connate spiritual treasure, or even lower. Even if it cultivated the law of life and death, or had life-death treasures to repair it, it would be impossible to return to its original grade. After being repaired in Hongjun, the godslayer had only been repaired to the level of a connate cardinal treasure after refining a part of the massacred demon god's body. It was only comparable to the 3 treasures of opening heaven. If there were no accidents, the life and death gourd could only reach this level. However, it was different with the eternal blessing. This time, it didn't break through to the level of a connate cardinal treasure like the thunder spear, but its foundation and potential had been repaired. It was almost a certainty that it could recover to the level of a chaos spiritual treasure in the future. After all, with the advancement of the timeless arc, it would undoubtedly rise in power. However, the difficulty of breaking through was much easier than the treasure-fall coin and the passing water lamp. Naturally, its power would be more powerful. The originally broken restriction began to repair bit by bit. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9. It only stopped at this moment. But in this short period of time, the life and death gourd had finally recovered a bit of the chaos spiritual treasure's power and aura. Chapter 10:22. Although they were both in the eternal divine furnace, other than the shocking thunder flag, which could suppress it, and the heavenly cycle stellar formation, which could barely contend with it, the other supreme treasures all retreated. It was like a flood dragon meeting a real dragon. The natural suppression of their ranks instantly caused an earth-shaking change. Of course, there was no one else but Yang Mei and the Chaos who could notice the changes here. When Yang Mei and Hong Jun were fighting, the other creatures in the Chaos were scared away. Jin Yuanzi, Ong Yun, and the others even fainted. When the everlasting lotus descended and Hong Jun fell, San Qing and the others naturally fainted. At this moment, although Hong Jun had recovered, he was frightened by Hong Jun Tiandao. However, the heavenly Daos were like birds startled by the mere twang of a bow. They didn't dare to provoke the eternal heavenly vessel at all. At the same time, he was in big trouble now. Previously, in order to attack Yang Mei, the timeless arc, and defend against the everlasting lotus, he consumed too much of Hong Jun Tiandao's origin. As a result, the whole desolation was in big trouble. Not only did he have to be busy as a firefighter to suppress the desolation, but he also had to be careful of an old opponent who wanted to take advantage of the situation. He did not have the mood, nor did he dare to pay attention to the things in the chaos. As for why he was not worried about the everlasting lotus continuing to attack. First, it was useless to worry. Hong Jun and Hong Jun Tiandao knew that if an existence like the everlasting lotus wanted to destroy them, it was really like they wanted to destroy Kunpeng and Jin Yuanzi. It was too easy. That blow just now could kill them. Since they had let them go before, as long as they did not seek death, obviously, the other party would not continue to attack. What a shocking foundation. It seems I've underestimated him. At first, I thought that even if the eternal heavenly boat advanced to the peerless level, it wouldn't be able to deal with Hong Jun. Who would have thought that this heavenly boat's foundation would be so strong? Not only could it easily advance from unparalleled to peerless, but its battle prowess would also undergo a heaven-shaking transformation after the advancement. It seems that even if we don't use the everlasting lotus to plot against Hong Jun with this timeless arc, we are still in an invincible position. Even without me, if he wants to leave, I'm afraid that Hong Jun will not be able to stop him. As expected of the master of the timeless Arkansas, none of them are simple. He looked at the timeless ark, which looked like a rapidly growing ferocious beast. Yang Mei could not help but sigh with emotion. At the end of the day, he was the same as Hong Jun. Although he felt that Fang Qingshan had potential, he still needed time to grow. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to sell Fang Qingshan. Although he had already overestimated him, in the end, he still underestimated him. After lamenting, Yang Mei locked his gaze firmly on the eternal blessing that enveloped the timeless Arkansas. The advancement of the timeless ark was not something that could be seen easily. Moreover, Yang Mei was trying to observe a trace of the true meaning of eternity from it. If he succeeded, the harvest would be great. Even if he did not succeed, being able to get close to a supreme existence like the everlasting lotus was a rare experience. Time passed quietly. As the various resources in the treasure realm and Zhaixing Lu continued to be absorbed by the timeless ark, the advancement of the timeless ark was finally coming to an end, and the eternal blessing was nearing its end. Disregarding everything else, just the defense of the timeless ark itself was no weaker than that of the great void god armor. It was tough and indestructible. It was unknown how much time had passed. Perhaps it had been a split second, or perhaps it had been a dream of 10,000 years. In the core control room of the timeless ark, Fang Qingshan was sitting cross-legged. He did not move, but his aura was connected to the timeless Arkansas. A pillar of nomological laws shot up into the sky, connecting the entire timeless Arkansas. This was naturally the nomological laws of the 5 elements. If the nomological laws of the 5 elements were a little illusory before, they were now much stronger than before. This was not a matter of size, but quality. And all of this was naturally due to the condensation of the immortal substance. If one could see through Fang Qingshan's Naiwan Palace, one would be able to see a 28th grade green lotus swaying gently. The lotus leaves were unfurled, simple and ancient. Its entire body was filled with a kind of sky green color, and the lotus was crystal clear, emitting a faint trace of eternal Tao runes. Of course, these 28th grade green lotus were not all solid. Among them, only the 2 4th grade ones at the core were solid, while the other 24 were illusory. Even with the combination of the 81 grade, the everlasting lotus, and the 36 grade world creation green lotus, Fang Qingshan could only observe the 28th grade Great Tao green lotus diagram at most. This was almost his limit. Moreover, there were only 4th grade ones that were solid. Of course, as his cultivation level increased in the future, his knowledge would broaden, and his understanding of the Great Tao would deepen. Those illusory lotuses would materialize one by one, and they might even break through the 28th grade and reach the 36th grade, or even higher. But that was all in the future. Fang Qingshan's cultivation level had broken through to the peak of first stage primordial chaos essence, and his combat power was close to the peak of 3rd stage primordial chaos essence. However, with the Great Tao Green Lotus diagram, the situation was completely different. Almost 4 layers of the 5-element nomological pillar behind Fang Qingshan were filled with immortal substance. It was like the divine marrow in the body's bones, entrenched in the bones. Although it could not be activated, it could naturally emit immortal Tao runes, tempering the bones and physical body, and making one's potential stronger. Not only had his cultivation level broken through to the peak of 3rd stage primordial chaos essence, but he had also condensed 3 layers of immortal substance. In fact, based on the quantity and quality of the eternal blessing this time, Fang Qingshan could completely break through to the 4th stage or 5th stage primordial chaos essence. However, in order to create the Great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram and condense the immortal substance, he had to make a choice. But it had to be said that this was a wise choice. There is no need to talk about the Great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram. It was a cultivation technique, a foundation. However, as Fang Qingshan observed the Green Lotus diagram, traces of immortal substance condensed every moment. Although the quantity was small, it was better than a thin stream of water flowing over a long period of time. Without a cultivation technique, the difficulty of condensing immortal substance could be increased tenfold or even 100-fold. The immortal substance was not only related to the future heaven-human 5 deterioration tribulation and breaking through to the immortal realm, but it was also closely related to one's strength. A primordial chaos expert who had not condensed immortal substance, even if he reached the mid-stage primordial chaos essence, could not compare to an early-stage primordial chaos expert who had condensed one layer of immortal substance. Moreover, even with the cultivation technique and the Great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram, it was extremely difficult to condense even one drop of immortal substance. It required a lot of spirit essence, resources, and time. However, now that he had taken advantage of the eternal blessing, Fang Qingshan directly condensed 3 layers, which saved a lot of time, resources, and energy. Moreover, because of the eternal Tao runes, the immortal substance condensed now not only contained a trace of almost imperceptible eternal Tao runes, but it was also 3 times more condensed than usual. Chapter 1023. At a certain moment, Fang Qingshan's closed eyes slowly opened. The sun and the moon were faintly visible, and the universe floated and sank. It was so deep that it was intoxicating. In his opened eyes, countless rays of wisdom flickered. The vast divine light that shrouded the timeless ark also disappeared without a sound. It was hidden in the void and could not be detected. Good. The benefits I obtained this time are greater than before. Not only did I take the opportunity to deduce the 12th level primordial chaos cultivation technique of the All Heavens Tao verification technique, the Great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram, to pave the way to the immortal realm. I also took the opportunity to condense 3 layers of immortal matter. Because of the condensation of immortal matter, the entire nomological sky pillar seemed to be filled with mysterious qi activity circulating inside. The appearance of the Great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram completely indicated that he had the opportunity to reach the immortal realm. Compared to other primordial chaos experts, he had an immeasurable advantage. After all, not every primordial chaos expert had a cultivation technique of that realm. For example, Nuwa, Jian, and Junti did not have one. Although they had more or less obtained the inheritance of Chaos Demon God, they did not have a complete cultivation technique. Only when he had listened to the Tao in the Purple Cloud Palace that day, Hongjun Tiandao had used the mouth of Hongjun to spread the great Tao of primordial chaos. In addition, he had comprehended Hongjun Tiandao every day to improve his cultivation. However, if Fang Qingshan needed a day to condense a drop of immortal matter, then they would need at least about 100 days. Moreover, the quality of the condensed immortal matter could not be compared to that of Fang Qingshan. This was also why Fang Qingshan had obtained so few primordial chaos cultivation techniques. Even if his cultivation was not high enough in the ruined city, only money mattered, not cultivation. The reason was that this kind of cultivation technique was very rare. Even if there was one, it was basically a cultivation technique for a clan or sect where it was kept secret. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would take it out for a trade. My cultivation level has also advanced from the peak of the 1st stage primordial chaos essence to the peak of the 3rd stage primordial chaos essence. I'm half a step into the mid-stage primordial chaos essence. I'll go back and enter seclusion for a while to consolidate my foundation. Then, I'll be able to break through to the 4th stage primordial chaos essence. As for the Timeless Ark, his improvement is even greater. The Thunder Emperor's cultivation level is comparable to the 7th stage primordial chaos essence. The most important thing is that Hongjun Tiandao is in trouble this time. At the thought of this, Fang Qingshan took a deep breath and could not help but feel delighted. Hongjun Tiandao had always been a big knife hanging in his heart. He did not know when it would fall. This time around, he had managed to vent out his anger. Hongjun Tiandao had been gravely injured by the everlasting lotus. At that time, Fang Qingshan had been fully focused on creating the great Tao Green Lotus visualization diagram and comprehending the laws of samsara and primal chaos. However, he had still sensed their fate. This blow was enough to make Hong Jun Tiandao's years of hard work disappear overnight and return to its original state. It was even possible that they would fall short of success when they were going to overcome the great apocalypse in the future because of this. However, Fang Qingshan did not have the slightest bit of sympathy. If he did not gloat, it meant that he had a noble character. Seemingly sensing that Fang Qingshan had woken up, the Thunder Emperor's figure instantly appeared in front of Fang Qingshan. Congratulations, host. Your cultivation level has improved greatly. The Mother of the Everlasting Lotus wants you to keep up the good work. She hopes that the next time she sees you, you will continue to surprise her. She will not be stingy with rewards. The Thunder Emperor first congratulated Fang Qingshan and then conveyed the message of the Everlasting Lotus. Congratulations, congratulations. After sizing up the Thunder Emperor, Fang Qingshan said with a smile. In the past, even if the Thunder Emperor said congratulatory words, he would feel cold, but this time, he was full of joy. Obviously, the advancement this time was also full of gains for him. Not to mention the growth in cultivation level, he had completely gained the 7 emotions and 6 desires of living beings, including joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. By the way, Thunder Emperor, is there any special change in the Timeless Arc this time? After exchanging a few words with the Thunder Emperor, Fang Qingshan asked with a smile. Although he was the host of the Timeless Arc, in terms of control over the Timeless Arc, he was obviously not as good as the Eternal Spirit. Hence, he asked this question. Of course, he did not have too much hope. He just thought that the Eternal Blessing this time was of high quality, so he asked casually, "There really is." The Thunder Emperor's face was also full of smiles as he answered affirmatively. "Oh, what is it?" Fang Qingshan was overjoyed when he heard this and asked hurriedly, "Host, the Timeless Arc has completed its transformation and advanced from the unparalleled level to the superior supreme level. All the units and treasures have improved. Let's not talk about these. There are 2 special things." The Thunder Emperor did not keep Fang Qingshan in suspense. As soon as Fang Qingshan asked, he told him everything in detail. One is the Eternal Divine Furnace Unit. According to Ling Yun's previous advancement to the unparalleled level, there should have been an additional 3 Eternal Divine Furnace Units. This time, because Mother is very satisfied with the host performance, there are 2 more Eternal Divine Furnace Units. What? 5 Eternal Divine Furnace Units? Upon hearing the Thunder Emperor's words, Fang Qingshan was really happy and worried. However, this worry was just a happy annoyance, not a real worry. Why had Fang Qingshan taken the comprehensive Timeless Arc route? Why had the Prometheus ship fought against primordial chaos with the unparalleled level and was comparable to a late-stage primordial chaos expert? All of this was because of the foundation. At Ling Yun's level, there were 9 Eternal Divine Furnace Units. However, although there were many units at that time, the numinous treasures integrated were a little inferior, so the power was not obvious. In fact, the Treasurefall coin and other things were not bad, but how could anyone who could obtain the Timeless Arc be simple? Who would integrate ordinary treasures into it? Therefore, when Ling Yun had been at the unparalleled level, he had not stood out. At the unparalleled level, he had integrated the Thunderous Flag and perfected the Zodion Star Array, which was completely different. However, when Ling Yun had advanced to the unparalleled level, he had only added 3 units. Now, although it was not as good as Ling Yun's 9 units, there were still 5 Eternal Divine Furnace Units. Fang Qingshan believed that as long as the treasures integrated were powerful and mysterious enough, his chances of surviving the Heaven-Human 5 Blight would increase by half. One should not underestimate this half. Many experts at the 12th stage Primordial Chaos only had about a 3rd stage at most when they underwent the Heaven-Human 5 Blight. Even a slight chance could be a hope of survival, let alone a greater chance of more than half. Perhaps this slight chance could allow one to successfully survive the Great Tribulation and become immortal. What about the other one? After digesting the eternal divine furnace unit, Fang Qingshan asked expectantly. The other one is the timeless ark's main body. The Thunder Emperor answered. Originally, because of the Grade 3 Golden Lotus, I could only integrate the power of incense and wish to strengthen the timeless ark's main body. However, this time, I don't know if it's because of the Chaos Bloodstone or Mother's Gift, but the timeless ark's main body has the ability to devour everything. In other words, the timeless ark's main body can devour any resources to evolve and strengthen like Mosquito Dauren. Fang Qingshan asked happily. Chapter 1024. Not only that, but its defense has also increased a lot. The Thunder Emperor nodded. The power attacking the timeless ark can be devoured and converted into a defensive power. Good. Hearing this, Fang Qingshan could not help but say good 3 times. Congratulations. After understanding the changes in the timeless ark and adapting to the improvement of his strength, Fang Qingshan appeared in the chaos. Seeing this, Yang Mei hurried over. Feeling the changes in the timeless ark and Fang Qingshan, he could not help but congratulate them. There was even a hint of envy on his face. This time, it's all thanks to Taoist Yang Mei. Otherwise, it would not have been so easy to deal with Hongjun. You gave me a papaya, and I will repay you with Qiangyao. This time, even if he didn't have Yang Mei, he could still escape unscathed. However, he still owed her a favor. Fang Qingshan took out a jade bottle and handed it to Yang Mei. It's just a small gift. Oh. Seeing the jade bottle that Fang Qingshan handed over, Yang Mei did not reject it. After all, in order to deal with Hongjun this time, his old injuries almost relapsed. Raising his white eyebrows, Yang Mei opened the bottle stopper, and a familiar smell rushed over. Yang Mei's expression suddenly changed, and he put the bottle stopper back in place at lightning speed. Then, he took a deep breath, as if he wanted to swallow all the smell that had just been released. The reason why he acted this way was because it was familiar. It was because this came from the same source as the eternal blessing just now. Yang Mei had some guesses, but he also seemed to be in disbelief. He looked at Fang Qingshan and asked with a trembling voice. Yes, this is the eternal power. Fang Qingshan nodded affirmatively. This bottle of eternal power was a bit of power that Fang Qingshan had intercepted from the eternal blessing. Although it wasn't much, it was significant to Yang Mei. First of all, Yang Mei could make use of this eternal power to not only have a glimpse of the charm of eternity, but the most important thing was that this thing had a miraculous effect on healing injuries. To Yang Mei, it was like a timely rain. This item is very important to me, so I won't refuse. Yang Mei gripped the jade bottle tightly and said solemnly, If you need anything in the future, just let me know. All right. Fang Qingshan didn't say much. After chatting for a while, the two of them flew toward the desolation. In order not to affect the desolation world, Yang Mei and Hongjun deliberately stayed away from the desolation world. However, the distance wasn't too far. Otherwise, how could Hongjun summon Hongjun Tiandao? Moreover, with Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei's speed, they quickly returned to the chaos within the desolation world. However, even though they weren't stopped, they could still sense a deep sense of malice. Because of them, Niuhua and Hongjun's 2 only sages fell one after another. In the end, Hongjun Tiandao was also heavily injured, and his origin was damaged. Years of hard work was destroyed, and everything was back to square one. Until now, Hongjun was still cooperating with Hongjun Tiandao to suppress the riots in the world. Under such circumstances, would heaven and earth have a good impression of the two? Although they were forced to do so, the final result was that heaven and earth was damaged. In response, Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei couldn't help but shrug. They really didn't want to destroy heaven and earth. In the beginning, they didn't even think about Hongjun's death. They just wanted to trap him and injure him. However, Hongjun was courting death. He was too heavy-handed and attracted the everlasting Lotus's counterattack. They couldn't do anything about it. As the saying went, heaven's sins can be forgiven, but one's own sins cannot be avoided. Buzz. As Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan approached the world's barrier, they saw Hong Jun standing there with a gloomy expression, glaring at them. How dare you come back? Hong Jun's originally cold eyes were now bloodshot. His voice was filled with murderous intent. Why wouldn't I dare to come back? Before Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei could reply, a familiar voice was heard. Following that, Rahu walked over from afar with a gloating look on his face. As the saying went, when the Tao is weak, the demon is strong. The fall of Hong Jun and the damage to Hong Jun Tiandao naturally gave Ro an opportunity. Ro, who shouldn't have appeared at this time, managed to escape. Looking at Ro, Hong Jun gritted his teeth in anger. If it weren't for Ro, the four spirits of heaven and earth, Mount Buzhou, the ancient starry sky, the 33 heavens, and Hong Jun Tiandao, heaven and earth wouldn't be in such chaos. Daoist, how have you been? Ro didn't care about Hong Jun's killing intent at all. The more unhappy Hong Jun was, the happier he was. Especially now, he couldn't wait to skin him alive, but couldn't do anything about it. He first greeted Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan, as if he didn't care about the dispute between the Taoists and demons. The winner is king, the loser is a bandit. Hong Jun, I didn't expect you to be such a sore loser. Humph. Hong Jun snorted coldly and ignored Ro's sarcasm. Looking at Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei, he took a deep breath and slowly said, Desolation can't stand anymore. If the two of you still dare to act willfully, then this old Taoist is not afraid of a life-and-death struggle. As long as Daozu doesn't target, scheme, or deal with us, it's already a blessing. How will we dare provoke Daozu? Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei looked at each other and chuckled. After saying a few words, the crowd dispersed. In fact, from a moment Hong Jun and Hong Jun Tiandao were hit hard by the everlasting lotus, things were already doomed. It was just that Hong Jun had never suffered such a huge setback before, and they couldn't let it go. That was why they came to give an unnecessary warning. However, they all knew that when it came to benefits, or when they could hit the other party while they were down, no one would let go of such a great opportunity. The only thing they didn't expect was that Ro had appeared in advance. However, this had nothing to do with Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan. As long as Ro didn't provoke them, they didn't care who it was. After returning to Desolation, Fang Qingshan went straight back to the Blood Sea, and Yang Mei went back to the East Sea. The Desolation had completely restored its peace. This peace was unlike the peace after the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. There was a sense of hostility in the peace. It was heaven and earth, Hong Jun Tiandao, and Hong Jun's unwillingness. The heaven and earth were still filled with a sense of oppression, which was the desire of all living beings for power. After witnessing the great sorcerer and demon war, the great divine fiend formation, Pangu's true body, the Zhou Eon star formation, Nuwa, Fang Qingshan's power, and even the battle between Yang Mei and Hong Jun, there had never been a moment when all living beings in Desolation desired power so much, especially when Sanqing and Zhuni received these sages. Regardless of what happened in Desolation, Fang Qingshan didn't stay idle after returning to the Blood Sea. After the eternal blessing, his cultivation had been greatly improved. However, it wasn't appropriate for him to break through in a short period of time. It was time to settle down. He couldn't break through, but Mosquito Dowren could. Chapter 1025. Before Fang Qingshan broke through to primordial chaos, Mosquito Dowren had already accumulated enough. If it wasn't for protecting him, Mosquito Dowren would have broken through a long time ago. This time, Hong Jun Tiandao was damaged, and Fang Qingshan's strength had increased greatly. If he didn't break through now, when would he? Therefore, after returning to the Blood Sea, Mosquito Dowren went into seclusion. This time, he was prepared to devour the door of eternal life. While the door of eternal life's grade wasn't as high as the 3 treasures of opening heaven, it was still a connate cardinal treasure. After all, it was a treasure that contained the nomological law of destiny. Mosquito Dowren's mouth was powerful, but if he was allowed to devour on his own, it would definitely take a long time. If there was no other way, then it would be fine. But now that Fang Qingshan's cultivation level had increased, especially the timeless arc strength, he could assist. Blood Sea Secret Room. This time, Fang Qingshan didn't make any big moves. He used arrays and treasures to hide from the heavens, because there was no need. This time, Fang Qingshan's reputation had been completely established in the desolation. His reputation wasn't enough to describe it. Nobody dared to touch his whiskers. Plus, Hongjun Tiandao couldn't even take care of itself right now and wouldn't provoke him. Therefore, Fang Qingshan didn't even activate the Blood Sea array. Suppress. Fang Qingshan summoned the timeless arc and stopped the door of eternal life. Sensing its danger, the door of eternal life began to riot. A river of destiny floated in midair. That was the source of the door of eternal life. At this moment, this river of destiny began to communicate with the ancient river of destiny that existed between heaven and earth. It was trying to borrow his power to break the timeless arc's restraints and escape. Due to the timeless arc suppression, the door of eternal life didn't cause much of a commotion. But what kind of place was the Blood Sea? Although everyone avoided this place like a viper or a scorpion, they still paid extra attention to it. Even the slightest movement would make everyone who had just experienced the war between the liches and chaos tremble in fear. They were certain that no outsider would dare to provoke the Tai Sui at this time. Obviously, the movement of the Blood Sea was caused by Fang Qingshan himself. For a moment, no one could figure out what they were up to, but they could only wait and see. Even Hongjun Tiandao could only defend conservatively until there were no major problems. Fang Qingshan didn't care about what the desolation people thought. Sensing the gate of eternal life's final struggle, Fang Qingshan summoned the thunderclap flag. Dutian thunder break. Fang Qingshan's heart stirred, and the Thunder Emperor waved the thunderclap flag in his hand. Crack! There was an earth-shattering sound, as if the world was collapsing. Then there was a burst of blinding light, and for a moment there was no light in the world. The terrifying thunder fell. Although it wasn't as powerful as the one Pangu used to seize the life and death of the Chaos Demon God, it still had about 50 to 60% of its power. It should be known that previously, at most 10%, or even less, of its power was enough to kill Nuwa. One could imagine how powerful it was now. Before the true river of destiny could connect, the gate of destiny's origin river was instantly torn apart by the Dutian thunder. The power of destiny is supreme and unparalleled. Anyone who attacks, it will be judged by destiny. The river of destiny suppresses everything. Time is eliminated, space is destroyed. Destiny is indestructible. Eternal life exists. The tearing of the origin river caused the gate of eternal life to make its final struggle. Unfortunately, it was completely useless. In terms of grade, foundation, power, and all other aspects except for nomological laws, the thunderclap flag was on the gate of eternal life. That was why the gate of eternal life's destiny didn't even try to struggle to the death. There was no need for the thunder flag to defend at all. With a wave of his hand, the Thunder Monarch cast down the Great Void Divine Armor. Powerful runes of the Great Tao appeared on the ancient and mysterious scales. The power of the Great Tao it contained lay in front of the power of destiny. It was like a dam firmly blocking the flood. Again, with a thought, the Thunder Monarch used the Great Void Divine Armor to defend against the door of eternal life's lunge. At the same time, he continued to wave the thunderclap flag, sending out bolts of Dutian divine lightning to strike the door of eternal life. In the past, Pangu's Dutian thunder could easily destroy demonic gods and treasures. Although the Dutian thunder from the thunderclap flag was not as powerful as Pangu's god of thunder, the Gate of Eternal Life was also not as powerful as the Chaos Demon God's Chaos Spiritual Treasure. Therefore, the first lightning source was destroyed, the second lightning source was scorched, and the third lightning source was cracked. When the fourth bolt of Dutian God, lightning, fell, the Gate of Eternal Life completely shattered into pieces. Good. Seeing this scene, Mosquito Doran's eyes lit up. He had been waiting for this moment. Mouth, swallow the heavens and earth, swallow everything. Swallow, swallow, swallow. Mosquito Darren revealed his true form, the blood-winged black mosquito. It was not any smaller than the pan-goose summoned by 12 Zhu Wu not long ago. In particular, there was a jet-black, shiny mouthpart on its head that sent chills down one's spine. Even the primal chaos demonic horn in the eternal heavenly ship couldn't compare to it. Unsheathing his abilities. Won't. As Mosquito Darren erupted, a black hole appeared, emitting a terrifying devouring force. It frantically devoured the gate of eternal life's scattered fragments and source at a shocking speed. Countless forces of destiny surged into Mosquito Darren's body like a tide. Caught off guard, Mosquito Darren screamed in pain as he could not digest it in time. A man's heart was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Now, Mosquito Darren was in a similar situation. However, he had to use strong medicine to break the bottleneck of the primordial chaos realm. Otherwise, if he absorbed top-notch Khanate spiritual treasures step by step, even if they were the top 10 Khanate spiritual treasures of the primordial chaos realm, he would not be able to devour so many Khanate spiritual treasures. Fortunately, this pain was not only because he could not digest them in time, but also because of the transformation. It was the same principle as when Feng Qingshan broke through to the primordial chaos realm. This was a process that had to be experienced. Although Daoist Wen's earth-shattering screams were heard, he didn't slow down his devouring speed. The first spurt of energy would weaken, and the third would be exhausted. In the face of such pain, the best thing to do was to grit one's teeth and endure it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, the longer it dragged on, the more pain he would suffer. As for why he was not afraid of exploding, Mosquito Darren was not easy to deal with. Did he think that Feng Qingshan was just a decoration? The Tao of the 5 elements reinforces and restrains each other. The 5 elements millstone spin. Feng Qingshan pressed his palm on Mosquito Darren's body. The 5 elements laws in his body surged into his body like a flood, evolving into a square 5-element millstone. The millstone was divided into 2 parts. The stone mill on the top had the 5 elements reinforces each other and rotated clockwise. The stone mill on the bottom had the 5 elements restrain each other and rotated counterclockwise. In the middle of the stone mill, a terrifying area of destruction was formed. As it rotated, it seemed to be able to destroy Khanate spiritual treasures. Chapter 10:26. The top of the millstone could shoot out 5-color divine light and brush everything. The middle was like the ultimate ruin that could swallow the world. The millstone below was like a millstone that could destroy the world. It rolled over and crushed everything. Everywhere it went, heaven and earth turned into ruins and completely turned into nothingness. It collapsed crazily and turned into the power of the earth, fire, water, and wind. It swept in all directions. The world was silent. The 5-element millstone. This was the 4th intrinsic mystical power that Feng Qingshan's main body had nurtured after attaining primordial chaos. In terms of attack power, it was above the 5-element all. Mosquito Darren was Feng Qingshan's clone after all. Therefore, his power could enter his body without any hindrance. It was just like his own cultivation. There would be no rejection. With Feng Qingshan's millstone, the indigestible power of destiny was instantly crushed into slag. However, the power of destiny in Mosquito Darren's body was dragged into the middle of the millstone without any resistance. In an instant, it turned into the purest power without any willpower. It was like the spirit chi of heaven and earth that could be absorbed. With Feng Qingshan's help, the power in Mosquito Darren's body was absorbed completely in the blink of an eye. In an instant, an aura that belonged to primordial chaos began to spread. As Mosquito Darren devoured more, the aura grew stronger like mushrooms after the rain. With Feng Qingshan's help, Mosquito Darren devoured even more crazily. He almost swallowed all the gate of eternal life that was scattered in all directions in one breath. Feng Qingshan was shocked. and hurriedly helped him stabilize the situation. That was why he did not collapse, because of the terrifying power. After helping Mosquito Daoran stabilize the situation in his body, Fang Qingshan did not have any extra power to help with the digestion. Now, all Fang Qingshan had to do was wait for Mosquito Daoran to completely digest the gate of eternal life and naturally break through to primordial chaos. Let's not talk about the situation in the Blood Sea. Desolation beings, including Hongjun Tiandao, felt their eyelids twitching when they noticed the unusual movements in the Blood Sea. However, even after a long time, there were no other changes. Moreover, this strange movement gradually calmed down as time passed. Although he did not know what exactly was going on and did not dare to rashly pry into it, he was finally able to relax a little. Due to this uncontrollable situation, Hongjun felt that it was time to work hard. Besides, now that Hongjun Tiandao was severely damaged, he felt unsafe, especially when he was facing Fang Qingshan and Yang Mei. Therefore, he wanted to restore the power of Hongjun Tiandao as soon as possible. It was actually very simple to repair the source of Hongjun Tiandao. As long as one did something beneficial to the world, the source of Hongjun Tiandao could be strengthened. This was also why doing things that were beneficial to the development of the world had merit. If one wanted to do something beneficial to the development of the world, the simplest way would be for a sage to come into being. Niwa had already come into being. Originally, he could have waited for Sanxing and the rest to comprehend the Tao on their own. However, Hongjun could not wait any longer. Therefore, under his guidance, Laozi left Kunlun Mountain and began to travel among the human clan. Not only did he guide a sage to become a sage, but Hongjun also did something that seemed to make everyone's jaws drop. He actually went to the extraterritorial sky, which was also the lair of Ro, and decided to make peace with Ro. The reason for this was naturally because he had his eyes on the extraterritorial sky. If this world was integrated into the desolation, he could quickly repair the source of Hongjun Tiandao. Indeed, there were no eternal enemies, only eternal interests. However, it would still take some time for the extraterritorial sky to be integrated into the desolation. Firstly, the desolation of Hongjun Tiandao's source was damaged and weak. Devouring the extraterritorial sky was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Secondly, there was the issue of sovereignty. The reason why Ro agreed to integrate into the desolation was because it could also become a part of Hongjun Tiandao. Although it would not become Hongjun Tiandao like Hongjun, it was much better than being a sage. Not only could it borrow more power, but it would also have more freedom. If it integrated into the extraterritorial sky now, the desolation would be weak and Hongjun Tiandao would be weak. It would be easy for Ro to take advantage of this weakness. With a weak master and a strong subordinate, the situation would be reversed. Once this happened, it would not be good for Hongjun. Therefore, he would rather wait for Sanxing and the rest to become sages before integrating into the extraterritorial sky. However, Laozi received Hongjun's guidance and came to the human clan. He transformed into an ordinary old man and integrated into the human clan. First, he traveled among the human clan, listened more, observed more, and thought more. After observing for a while, Laozi was shocked. First of all, although the human clan was naturally weak, it seemed like any small race in the desolation could bully them. However, it was said that they had an innate Tao body. Once they started cultivating, they would definitely make tremendous progress. Other races, especially the Dragon Clan and Phoenix Clan, were born as celestial immortals or true immortals. When they grew up, they would become golden immortals. However, if they wanted to break through in the future, it would take tens of thousands of years. As for the human clan, they were born without any cultivation. However, they could become immortals in 10 to 100 years. In 1,000 years, they could break through to celestial immortals. In 10,000 years, they could become golden immortals. Although there was a huge gap between them and other races in the beginning, they could grow rapidly. Moreover, the time needed for them to break through was much shorter than other races. Innate Tao body. This was the first advantage that Laozi discovered about the human clan. The second advantage was their numbers. The human clan's reproduction rate was so fast that it was not any slower than those insects. How long had it been since Niwa became a sage? The initial number of 129,600 had actually broken through the 10 million mark. Desolation was not easy to survive. They were constantly attacked by demonic beasts, natural disasters, or simply starved to death. Otherwise, it would have broken through the trillion mark a long time ago. This did not seem to be an advantage, because regardless of whether it was the dragons or phoenixes of the past, or the current liches and demons, the number of people who died in the Great War of the liches and demons numbered in the hundreds of millions. However, there was a fundamental difference between the two, because no matter if it was the shamans, demons, dragons, or phoenixes, other than the Wu people, the reason why the dragons, phoenixes, and demons had so many people was because they had roped in the scaled creatures, flying creatures, and even desolation creatures. They did not have many people of their own kind. The dragons and phoenixes were still okay, but the golden crows had less than 20 people at most. As for the Wu people, they relied entirely on their bloodline inheritance. Although they had Pangu's heart, their numbers could not compare to the demon race. Besides, without Pangu's heart, if they wanted to reproduce, they would have to reach the level of senior magi like Xing Tian and Ho Yi. Moreover, once they produced descendants, their strength would also be damaged, and it would take a long time to recover. Although numbers did not mean everything and did not achieve the effect of strength in numbers. However, if this advantage was combined with the first advantage, then it would be terrifying. According to Laozi's observation, although the human clan did not have the method of cultivation, just like the demonic beasts who instinctively absorbed the spiritual energy of the world and the essence of the sun and moon, their overall strength was not inferior to that of ordinary races. Chapter 10:27. Generally speaking, it was good enough for a new race to have a golden immortal in the desolation. But the weak human race not only had a golden immortal, but their leaders Surenshur, Yochaoshur, and Zishur were even more impressive. Not only had they broken through the primordial immortal realm, but they also had great merits and treasures. And this was because they did not know how to cultivate. Otherwise, they would have broken through the zenith heaven realm and become a sage-to-be. This was the third advantage that I discovered about the human race. Merit. Merit was a good thing. It could be used for refining treasures, comprehending the Tao, cultivating, and all other aspects. Everyone wanted it. However, it was not easy to gain merit. Although Laozi had great merit, it was the legacy of the creation of the world. Goddess Nviwa created human beings, Taoist when collected the souls of the dead, and Dijuantai established the heavenly court. Anyway, the merit techniques that I obtained were very rare and could not be replicated. But the human race could easily obtain merit. Surenshur made fire by drilling wood, and the heavenly merit bestowed upon him. Yochaoshur built houses, and the heavenly merit bestowed upon him. Zishur made clothes, and the heavenly merit bestowed upon him. Good heavens, fire, houses, and clothes were simple things for me and most of the living beings in the desolation. But they relied on these things to obtain merit. That was not all. Surenshur's with drilling tools and fire, Yochaoshur's house, and the clothes made by Zishur had all transformed into merit spiritual treasures. Although it was not as good as my own Tianyihuang exquisite pagoda, or even Niwa's man-making whip, as long as the human race continued to reproduce and needed fire, houses, and clothes, the merit would continue to increase, and one day it would catch up. The most important thing was still luck. Although the human race was weak and insignificant compared to the liches and demons, their luck was not less than that of the liches and demons. Although it could not be compared to the liches and demons, it was not less than the myriad races in the desolation. Moreover, it was increasing day by day, like a single spark could start a prairie fire. This was also because Laozi had to rely on the human clan to become a saint and was fated with the human clan. In addition, Hong Jun had let him win. Otherwise, even a primordial chaos saint would not be able to pry into the human clan's secrets. The human race was destined to be the main character, and if they were to be exposed too early, the main characters of this Eon would most likely attack them together. In the original trajectory, the sorcerer and demon races did not know that the weak human race would replace them as the main characters of the world. However, because the blood and souls of the human race could be used to refine the witch-slaying sword, the demon race almost turned out in full force. Tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of human race were almost wiped out in the end. If they knew that the human race would eventually replace the lich demon race as the main character of the world, wouldn't they all rise up to attack the human race? Let's not talk about this for now. I've traveled the human race, and I've discovered that the human race lacks an opportunity to rise. As the saying goes, Jinling is not a fish in a pond. Once it encounters the wind and clouds, it will change into a dragon. Now, the human race only lacked wind and clouds to rise to the heavens, and this wind and clouds was the cultivation method. Once I understood this point, I immediately understood the foundation of my Tao. The primordial violet Qi surged and instantly wrapped around his primordial spirit. Laozi ignored it and went to a crowded place, sat down cross-legged, and began to explain the great path. Of course, what he explained was not profound. After all, although the human race was born with a Tao body, it was like a blank piece of paper. They could not understand things that were too profound, and it was like playing the lute to a cow. What he explained was to refine essence into Qi, refine Qi into spirit, refine spirit into void, refine void into Tao, and even the Tao of refining weapons, alchemy, and formations. In any case, it was as simple as it could be. At first, the crowd did not know what was going on. They only felt that it was very profound and comfortable. However, as some people understood, their cultivation levels began to soar, and it instantly caused a commotion. In the end, even Swirenshi and the other two were alarmed. The crowd surrounded Laozi and listened devoutly. After 81 years, Laozi stopped and took a step forward. He came to midair and regained his sage-like appearance, and his turbid eyes shone brightly. He bowed towards the void and said in a clear voice, "I'm a Grand Pure, one of the Pan, Gu Sanxing. Today I see that although the human race is naturally weak, their Tao bodies are formed by nature and their hearts are firm. Therefore I'm moved. I'm a special effect Daozu. I'll preach to the human race and teach all living beings. I'll establish a sect called the human race. From now on, the human race will respect me." Niua's destiny was to create humans and become saints, while Laozi and the others' destiny was to establish a sect and educate all living beings. With the help of Hongjun Tiandao, Laozi's words resounded throughout the entire desolation. All living beings heard Laozi's words and were extremely shocked. Of course, they weren't shocked because of Laozi's words, but because Laozi was about to become a sage. However, there was one person who was very dissatisfied with his father's words. This person was Niua. What did she mean by saying that the human race would respect Laozi in the future? Where would she, the goddess of the human race, be? It was just that Laozi was about to become a saint. Although Niua was one step ahead of him, because of the saint's death and the fact that all her treasures had been taken away by Fang Qingshan, she was no match for Niua in all aspects. She could only suffer in silence, unable to complain. Moreover, Laozi's ascension to a saint concerned the recovery of Hongjun Tiandao's essence. No matter how indignant Niua was, she could only endure it. However, it was difficult to raise a villain and a woman. Niua had recorded what happened today in her notebook. As long as she seized the opportunity, she would definitely return the favor. Let's not talk about that. After Laozi announced to the world, he took out a painting and a pagoda and threw them into the air. He said in a low voice, "I'll use the Khanate Cardinal Treasure, the Taiji painting, and the postnatal merit Cardinal Treasure, the mysterious yellow pagoda of heaven and earth to suppress the destiny of Rin School. Rin School establish." Whoosh! As Laozi's voice fell, a golden true dragon suddenly appeared. This true dragon was vivid and lifelike. As soon as it appeared, it was like a rock spreading its wings and soaring 90,000 miles into the sky. Then, it let out a dragon's roar and danced its body. It entered the void and completely integrated into the river of destiny of the human race. This was the true dragon of destiny. It represented the destiny of Ren school that Laozi had established. With the integration of this true dragon of destiny, the destiny of the human race immediately strengthened. Although nothing could be seen on the surface in a short period of time, the chances of a top genius being born in the human race would greatly increase. In fact, there might even be more monstrous powerhouses. In terms of cultivation speed, the birth of powerhouses, opportunities, and so on, they would all favor the human race. At the same time, Hongjun Tiandao sensed it and immediately bestowed boundless merit. Although it could not be compared to the merit that Nuwa had gained when she created a human, it was still about 30%. A large number of merit-auspicious clouds landed on Laozi's body. Immediately, Laozi's cultivation level began to change. First, the heavenly gate opened above Laozi's head. The clouds floated, the 3 flowers bloomed, the 5 chi surged, and the treasures appeared. A purple true dragon lingered in it. Boom! In an instant, an even greater merit that was comparable to Nuwa's Saint Ascension soared into the sky. Heavenly merit. That was the layer of heavenly merit that Pangu had left for Sanqing. It was originally hidden deep in the Niwen Palace and was drawn out by the merit of Ren school. Chapter 1028. The heaven-opening merit mixed with the merit of establishing a sect, making the sky above Laozi look resplendent. Laozi did not use the merit to improve his cultivation like Nuwa, who was in a hurry to integrate the primordial violet chi with the merit. Instead, he severed the obsession while his primordial spirit was still clear. Then, with the blessing of the merit, the 3 corpses became one. This was also because his cultivation was profound, and he used the heaven-opening clear chi to sever the corpses. Otherwise, it would have been almost impossible to achieve this step. Sever the 3 corpses to become a sage, and the merit to become a sage. After 2 attempts, Laozi finally combined his primordial spirit with the primordial violet chi and entrusted it to Hongjun Tiandao to break through to primordial chaos. In an instant, his cultivation broke through from the peak of sage to be to the peak of first stage primordial chaos. Yes, like Fang Qingshan, Laozi broke through to the peak of first stage primordial chaos. However, Fang Qingshan broke through both his body and primordial spirit, while Laozi proved his Tao twice in a row. For a moment, a suppressive force spread in the desolation. It was slightly weaker than Hongjuan's sage, but stronger than Yua's sage. Purple chi came from the east, heavenly flowers fell, and golden lotuses appeared on the ground. Strange phenomena appeared everywhere, and all kinds of auspicious signs appeared. At this moment, all the almighties in the desolation knew that Laozi had proved his Tao and become a sage. The human race hurriedly bowed and said, "Greetings to the human race's sect master, Supreme Pure One, Supreme Lord of Tao and Virtue." Laozi ignored the human race and looked at Kunlun Mountain. Seeing that Primordial Lord and Tongtian seemed to have understood something, but they were still a little confused, Laozi let out a soft cry. "If we don't break through now, when will we?" The 3 pure ones were a single entity, and their destinies were interlinked. Laozi's ascension to sage had already given Primeval and Heavenspan a great deal of inspiration. Now that Laozi had given them some pointers, they were suddenly enlightened. Now that they knew how to prove the Tao, they knew that they had to follow Laozi's example in establishing their own sect and educating the humankind. Immediately, they swore oaths to the Tao of Heaven. "I am one of the Pangu Sanqing, the J-Pure Primordial. I established the Chan sect and followed the will of the heavens. I used the Pangu banner to suppress the destiny. Hongjun Tiandao shall bear witness. I am one of the Pangu Sanqing, the prime clear heavenly sect. I have established the Jia sect. There are 50 great Taos and 49 heavenly evolutions. I have intercepted a chance of survival and used the 4 immortal exterminating swords to suppress destiny. Hongjun Tiandao shall bear witness. Just like Laozi, primordial origin and Tongtian established the Chan sect. After the Jie sect, the heaven and earth sensed it and immediately sent 2 pieces of merit that were slightly smaller than Laozi to primordial origin and Tongtian. The reason why they were slightly younger was because they had received guidance from Laozi and not self-enlightenment. As the merit entered their bodies, their merit of Genesis was also drawn out. The 2 of them had wanted to do what Laozi had done. They wanted to take advantage of the right time, place, and people to kill the 3rd corpse, then combine the 3 corpses into one, and use their merit to prove their Tao. Unfortunately, they all had different fates. Not to mention the fact that their cultivation was inferior to Laozi's. Not to mention the fact that the numinous treasures they used to kill the corpses did not originate from the same source. Even if they killed the 3 corpses, they could forget about combining them into one. Therefore, the final result was the same as Nuwa's. They combined the merit and killed the 3 corpses to break through, unlike Laozi who achieved the Tao of both. The combination of the merit and the primordial violet qi allowed the 2 of them to become sages. However, compared to Nuwa, the 2 of them were the authentic Pan Gu Sanqing. Their cultivation was profound. Although they could not compare to Laozi who reached the peak of the 1st level, they had reached the peak of the 1st level and almost broke through to the late stage of the 1st level. They were not like Nuwa, who had only broken through to the early stage of the 1st level. Soon after, 2 huge waves of pressure swept out from Kunlun Mountain towards the entire desolation. Before the living beings who had bowed down to Laozi for becoming a sage could get up, they were suppressed by the aura of primordial origin and heavenly sage. What a good Sanqing! He is indeed powerful. He actually became a sage consecutively within a day. Moreover, compared to Nuwa becoming a sage, it seems like all 3 of them are better. The Sanqing brothers are originally of the same breath and branch. Now that they have become sages at the same time, coupled with heavenly sages' immortal slaying sword formation, I'm afraid the entire desolation will have to avoid them. No. Have you all forgotten about the 2 in the Blood Sea? And the one from the East Sea? At this point, all the discussions came to an abrupt end. Fang Qingshan, Mosquito Daorun, and Yang Mei had now become a taboo in the desolation. Ordinary people did not dare to discuss them loudly. Not to mention the fact that they were people that no one could afford to provoke. After all, they were the ones who caused Nuwa and Hongjun sages to fall consecutively. Even Hongjun Tiandao's origin was severely damaged. Although Hongjun Tiandao and Nuwa could not deal with Fang Qingshan and the others, if they really wanted to vent their anger on them, it would be very simple. Just as everyone was feeling emotional about Sanqing becoming a sage, things were not over yet. Before the pressure and phenomenon of Mount Kunlun completely disappeared, changes could be seen on Mount Meru in the west. Golden flames soared into the sky, and auspicious colors appeared. The sea of bitterness was boundless, and merit shone on the world. There were Buddhas chanting sutras, Bodhi growing, lotus flowers blooming, and Vajra subduing demons. At a glance, it was cold and quiet, but there was also the sound of Sanskrit Buddhist chanting, sounding from the bottom of one's heart. Being in it, one would not be troubled, and one would be at ease. At this moment, Zhuanti and the other 2 revealed their Sarira golden bodies. Hundreds of millions of auspicious clouds floated in their minds, and they chanted mantras. Their appearances were solemn, and their magical powers were mighty. At that moment, the Sanskrit words were like pearls, and the Sarira golden bodies shone. The sound of bells and drums was loud and sonorous. The heavenly dragon revolved around it, and the rain of flowers was colorful. It was the Zen heart that shone brightly in the thousands of rivers and the moon. At that moment, the Buddhist light shone brightly from Mount Meru and swept towards the world. It was as if he wanted to save all living beings and include everything in the world into the paradise. Upon seeing that scene, be it the three of them who had just become saints or Nuwa, they could not help but snort coldly. If the world became a paradise, where everyone chanted Zen and worshipped Buddha, where would they be? The four of them were very dissatisfied with Junti's act of guiding them across the border. Hence, the Buddhist light that was originally sweeping the world with an irresistible force suddenly stopped. Moreover, it rolled up the bead curtain and was firmly locked in the west, unable to advance. Seeing that scene, although Junti and the other two were furious, they were also helpless. They could not win against the four saints of the celestial sect of wonders. Knowing that he could not do anything, Junti did not force it. He immediately followed the example of the three of them and established the Western sect. Hongjun Tiandao, I will guide you. Junti has established the Western sect today with the responsibility of saving all living beings in the world. Anyone who is fated can join the sect. As the saying goes, medicine cannot cure diseases, and Buddha can help those who are fated. I will use the 12th grade golden lotus of merit, the Bodhi wood, the sea of bitterness, and the 8 treasures merit pool to suppress the destiny of the Western sect. Those who enter my sect will enjoy eternal bliss. I will not be a mysterious sect, and I will not respect Hongjun. Hongjun Tiandao will bear witness. As soon as the two of them finished speaking, the Desolation sect was shocked. One had to know that for the two of them in the Western sect, Daozu had stripped the two of their dignity and given the primordial violet chi to them. That was why there was a gap between them and the Blood Sea. As a result, the murder happened not long ago. The two of them had even become disciples of Hongjun. Although they were not true disciples like Sanqing, they were still in-name disciples. Now, they actually wanted to break out of the sect and establish another sect. Cut ties with Hongjun. Chapter 1029. At the same time that Junti and Xianmen became saints, they actually broke out of the sect and set up an unorthodox sect. It seemed that they had betrayed Hongjun and the celestial sect of wonders. For a moment, the atmosphere of the entire desolation suddenly became tense. Everyone was waiting for Daozu's anger. Unfortunately, it seemed to be slightly different from what they had imagined. Daozu's anger did not come as expected. In fact, the matter was very simple. Although Hongjun had taken the primordial violet chi of Fang Qingshan and Xianmen for the sake of the two from the Western sect, it was also due to karma. It was Hongjun that owed the Western sect karma and had to repay it with the primordial violet chi. Otherwise, they could forget about successfully Dao integration. Therefore, there was no favor on this point. As for the identity of master and disciple, the so-called in-name disciple meant that the two of them were not important. They could join another sect at any time. Moreover, the most important thing for Hongjun Tiandao now was to restore the source of Hongjun Tiandao. Whether it was breaking out of the sect or anything else, as long as it was beneficial to the world, he would not care. Even if the two from the Western sect established another Buddhist sect, could they be like Fang Qingshan and Xianmen? Not to mention Hongjun Tiandao. Just Sanqing alone was enough to make them suffer. Unfortunately, Hongjun did not know that the sky was not high, but the people were higher than the sky. In the end, Sanqing really fell in the hands of the two from the Western sect. On the surface, the Chan school had won the battle of the gods, but that was only on the surface. The ones who really made a fortune were the Buddhist sections. As a result, the Buddhist Dharma spread to the east, and the Western sect flourished, causing the celestial sect of wonders to be unable to breathe. Putting these aside for the time being, although Hongjun did not care about the actions of Junti and Xianmen, the Western sect could not compare to Sanqing. Although Jieyin might be able to catch up to Laozi in terms of cultivation and was slightly better than primordial Tongtian. However, the bad thing about them was that they had no foundation and no legacy. His birth was not bad. One of them was the Bodhi tree, one of the 10 great connate spiritual roots of desolation, and the other seemed to be the connate metal-aged chi, which was related to the heart of the green lotus of creation. But among the innate gods, in terms of birth, which one was inferior? The reason why Sanqing was the destined saint, why he had become a saint so smoothly, and why he had surpassed Nuwa the moment he became a saint. It was because of Pan Gu's merit of creation. Zhuanti managed to catch up with the destruction of the western ancestral vein by Ro, and then Hong Jun was tainted with karma. Otherwise, it would have been wishful thinking to become a sage. Now, even if he had the primordial violet chi, because he did not have the merit of opening the heavens, nor did he have the merit of Nuwa's creation, just the merit of establishing a sect was not enough. Therefore, for a moment, he could not help but feel embarrassed. The opportunity to become a saint was right in front of him, but he couldn't go up or down. If he were to miss this opportunity, he would have to pay 10 times or even 100 times the price if he wanted to become a saint. There might not even be another chance. Moreover, if he did not take what the heavens gave him, he would be the one to blame. Uncivilized barbarians. Hee, interesting. What a pity, what a pity. Although Hong Jun did not pursue the matter of the two people from the West, as an orthodox Xianmen, Sanqing felt that welcoming Zhuni was a betrayal. Although it was difficult to pursue the matter because of Hong Jun Tiandao's source recovery plan, he could not help but gloat when he saw the two people being humiliated. On the other hand, Nuwa could not help but feel a little worried when she saw this scene. Although she was a little dissatisfied that Zhuanti wanted to turn the whole of desolation into a Buddhist kingdom, they were still allies after all. Regardless of what others thought, the two people could see that they had established a great sect, but they were still a little short. They could not smoothly prove their Tao like Sanqing, and they could not help but feel bitter. However, at the end of the day, the two people were people with great perseverance, great luck, and great fortune. Otherwise, such a good thing like the destined saint would not have happened to them. Otherwise, how could they have obtained the inheritance of a top-notch demon god like the karma demon god? Otherwise, how could the Buddhist sects suppress the celestial sects in the future? Noticing that the situation was becoming worse and worse for them, the two of them glanced at each other, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed within their eyes. However, there was even more helplessness in their eyes, and they couldn't help but sit down on the lotus at the same time. Their expressions were solemn as they formed seals with their hands, and they simultaneously made the 48 grand aspirations. If I attain the supreme Bodhi, Sheng Jingjue had arrived, the Buddhist temple where he resided. It was inconceivable. His merits were solemn. There was no hell. Hungry ghost. What a beast. Like flying and wriggling. When I became a Buddha, all living beings, those born in our country, they had all obtained his mind connection. If he didn't know, then he would have hundreds of thousands of Buddhist temples. The thinker of all. I don't take the right sense. When I became a Buddha, all living beings in all directions. Hear my name. His heart believed in joy. All good roots. Xin returned. I wish to be born in our country. Even 10 thoughts. If he was not alive. Do not take the right sense. Only the 5 rebels could be eliminated. You will be punished for slander. When I became a Buddha, there are no women in this country. If there was a woman, smell my name. Obtain the tranquil faith. Develop the Bodhi heart. Hate the female body. Wish to be born in our country. Transform into a man at the end of life. Come to my earth. All living beings in the world of 10 directions. Those born in our country. All born in the lotus flower of the 7 treasures pond. If not, do not take the right sense. As soon as the 48 great wishes were released, heaven and earth shook, and an immeasurable amount of merit fell. Although it couldn't compare to Pangu's merit of opening the heavens, it didn't seem to be any weaker than Yua's merit of creating people. Seeing this situation, the two who received Zhuanti couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. However, they didn't show much joy. After all, although they could become sages now, this merit wasn't theirs. It was borrowed. As the saying goes, you have to return what you borrowed. If they couldn't do everything in the great wishes in the future, not only would they not be able to continue breaking through, they would also suffer the backlash of Hong Jun Tiandao. As for eating and dashing and stealing this merit, they didn't even need to think about it. Not to mention that they didn't have the power to do so, Even if they didn't return it, it would only be worse under the entanglement of karma. As the saying goes, breaking the law knowingly increases the crime. After all, they cultivated the Tao of karma. However, these were matters for the future. Right now, it was more important to become sages. The two calmed their minds and hurriedly combined the merit with the primordial violet qi and their primordial spirits. They placed their primordial spirits in Hongjun Tiandao. This time, they didn't imitate Sanqing and wanted to kill the three corpses and combine them into one. They didn't have enough resources to begin with. If they wanted to play other tricks, wouldn't that be courting death? Therefore, the moment the merit landed, two auras, one weak and one strong, but both were no weaker than Yua's sages, erupted. The weak one was naturally Zhuanyi, and the strong one was naturally Jiayin. Jiayin's cultivation level was close to Laozi's. Although he didn't reveal himself, one could tell from the fact that Zhuanyi followed his lead. Although Jiayin couldn't compare to Laozi due to the lack of resources, he was no weaker than primordial origin Tongtian. His cultivation level was at the peak of the middle stage of primordial origin realm. Phew! Jiayin, Zhuanyi, you sure have great perseverance and great power. The 800 unorthodox sects are not to be underestimated. Seeing that Jiayin and Zhuanyi wanted to borrow money from the heavens and make a great wish to become sages, even primordial origin, who looked down on the West the most, had nothing to say. Chapter 10:30. Sanqing and the others were in awe of how Zhuanyi had taken a different path. Not only had they resolved the crisis, but they had also found another shortcut to becoming a saint. Although it had the same drawbacks as Hongjuan's unification of the path, it was undoubtedly the greatest blessing for those who were just a step away from becoming a saint. Within a day, 5 people became saints. All the saints designated by Hongjun had become saints. Even the last wisp of primordial violet qi, which depended on luck, had allowed Feng Qingshan to walk on the Tongtian Dao. Everyone knew that the desolation realm was about to change. The advantages of the races since ancient times would no longer exist. The era of saints had arrived. Both the sorcerer and monster races were now very strong, especially the Wu people's great heavenly fiends array, which could summon Pangu's true body, cast Dutian thunder, and even restore the heaven-splitting axe. But compared to Sanqing and the others, they were clearly much weaker, especially when faced with Tongtian, who had the immortal slaying sword array, which was no weaker than the great heavenly fiends array. They had no advantage at all. In the heavenly court, Emperor Jun, Tai, and the others, who had just recovered from the last great shaman-demon war, looked at each other in dismay and did not know what to say. Emperor Jun, Tai, and the others, who had just recovered from the last great shaman-demon war, changed their expressions. In the past, only Nuwa had become a saint. Although Nuwa did not manage things, she was still the queen of the monster race. Moreover, there was a Fushi among the monster race, so they were happy to see the birth of a saint, especially when they saw that the Wu people had the great heavenly fiends array, which could summon Pangu's true body. Although the Zhoutian star array was powerful, it could not defend against it. With a saint like Nuwa, they could be at ease. However, as the 3 pure ones and Zhuanyi became saints one after another, the situation became very bad. Whether the monster race wanted to unify the world or they wanted to prove their Tao, they could not avoid these saints. If they were in his shoes, they probably wouldn't want another person to share the cake with them either. Moreover, if the shamans and demons did not retreat in defeat, how could the saints spread their Tao and spread their teachings? Therefore, Dijun and Dongwang Tai's faces were dark. The situation was extremely unfavorable for the demon race. As for the others, Fushi and Kuan Peng didn't mind at all. To Fushi, although he was Emperor Shi of the demon race, the demon race was not a place where he could settle down. After all, he still had a younger sister who had become a saint first. Even if it was for Nuwa's sake, no one would make things difficult for him. As for the Kuan Peng, even if the sky collapsed, there was a tall one to hold it up. Therefore, he did not feel too conflicted. Moreover, there was no use in being conflicted. He still had to face what he had to face. On the other hand, Baize could not help but speak when he saw that the atmosphere was a little heavy. Your Majesty, why worry? So what if a saint is born? It's not like the demon race, and the heavenly court don't have no saints. Moreover, we have the heavenly cycle star formation with the combat power of a saint. After practice, it is no longer what it used to be. Together with the 33 heavens formation, as long as we are in the heaven realm, we can even suppress a saint. It is equivalent to 3 saints. Even if we face Sanshin, what is there to fear? After hearing Baize's words, Dijun and Tai immediately calmed down and regained their confidence. These years, after summarizing the experience of the last great war of shamans and demons, and digesting the battles between Nuwa and Feng Qingshan, and Yang Mei and Hong Jun, Dijun and the others had benefited greatly. When they used it on the deduction of the Zodion star formation, they had to look at it in a different light. Although the original source of the primordial starry sky was damaged, and its power seemed to be similar to that during the Great War of Shamans and Demons, once the original source of the starry sky recovered, the power of the Zodion star formation would be incomparable. Although Dijun and Tai still had not mastered the formation diagram of the Zodion star formation, they had obtained a treasure, the Zodion star fruit tree. This was a top-notch connate spirit root, and it was not inferior to the Bodhi tree or the Fuso tree. In particular, its effect on strengthening the Zodion star formation was only slightly inferior to the formation diagram of the Zodion star. With this tree, the power of the Zodion star formation increased by 50%. Without this tree, the Zodion star formation could at most resist Nuwa, but with this tree, it could even trap Nuwa. Aside from the Zodion star formation, Dijun also had complete control over the 33 heavens. Although the formation could not be moved, anyone who entered it would be suppressed, and the sages were no exception. In the heaven realm, the 33 heavens formation was not weaker than the Zodion star formation, so it would be another trump card of the demon clan. Even so, Dijun and Tai still felt that it was not safe. Therefore, Dijun said, "The birth of the sages has a great impact on the demon clan, but it will also affect the other Taoists greatly. Therefore, this might be an opportunity to rope them in." Tai, Fushi, and the others understood what Dijun meant. Now that the sages had been born, the sorcerer and demon clans would be there to support them even if the sky fell. However, once the sorcerer and demon clans fell, it would not be a good thing for the others. Tai, Fushi, and the others understood what Emperor Jun meant. Although the Wu and demon tribes could support the birth of the sages, it would not be a good thing for the others if the Wu and demon tribes fell. After all, the sages were more powerful than the sorcerer and demon clans. For the sake of their own interests, they would choose to ally with the sorcerer and demon clans. Because the Wu people did not have a primordial spirit, they were incompatible with the Desolation clan. Therefore, allying with the demon clan was the best choice. Of course, the demon clan's first choice was naturally Shiha, Changshi, and Wang Shu, who were on the lunar star. They were the first choice. There were 2 reasons. Firstly, the lunar star was one of the 3 main stars of the Zodion star. If Shiha and the others worked together, the Zodion star formation could be more complete and powerful. Secondly, the lunar star and the solar star were naturally attracted to each other. If Dijun and Shiha could become Dijun's dependents and practice yin-yang dual cultivation, their cultivation would improve tremendously. "I'll have to trouble Taoist Fushi to ask Lady Nuwa to help," Dijun said to Fushi politely. "It's my duty. Your Majesty, there's no need to trouble me." Fushi didn't ask Nuwa and immediately agreed. Firstly, this was not a troublesome matter. Moreover, it was a good thing for the demon clan and Nuwa. There was no need to talk about the demons. For Nuwa, if she could host a heavenly marriage, she could even obtain a portion of merit. Unfortunately, he had forgotten that the red hydrangea had been taken away by Feng Qingshan. It would not be easy for Nuwa to preside over the heavenly marriage. Not only were the demon clan shocked, but in the Desolation clan, except for Blood Sea, Yang Mei, and Ro, everyone else was shocked and moved by the birth of the sage. The demon clan wanted to rope in more experts and ask Nuwa for a marriage alliance on the lunar star. As for the Wu people, they were preparing to use the resources of the Wu people to improve their cultivation. At the same time, they were preparing to visit Blood Sea and ask for Fang Qingshan's opinion. As for the Penglai clan of the East Sea, Teng Wang Kung, he was busy refining the innumerable immortal formation chart. As for the others, Zhen Yuanzi, Hong Yun, and the others could not sit still. For a moment, the entire Desolation clan was in turmoil. Chapter 1031. Just as undercurrents were surging in the entire Desolation due to the birth of a saint, a phenomenon suddenly erupted in the Blood Sea. When the sky emitted killing intent, the stars moved. When the earth emitted killing intent, dragons and snakes rose. When humans emitted killing intent, heaven and earth turned upside down. Just like how Junti had received a saint and the Buddha light had illuminated the universe, a beam of blood light swept across the entire Desolation at lightning speed, as if it wanted to turn the entire Desolation into a blood sea. However, Sanxing and the others dared to stop the Buddha light, but they could only watch the blood light wreak havoc in heaven and earth. Fortunately, the blood light was just a phenomenon and did not intend to corrode heaven and earth. Then, an intense massacre chi soared into the sky. Those who did not know would think that it was the Khanate cardinal treasure, the Godslayer, that Hong Jun had used in the chaos back then. The entire world suddenly changed color, and dark clouds covered the sky. That was the massacre chi condensed into a substance. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that the entire Blood Sea seemed to have transformed into a Taoye's mouth, erupting with an unprecedented devouring power. Everything, be it the spirit chi of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and moon, the boundless baneful chi, or even light, was completely devoured. Everyone was stunned at the sight of this. Even Sanxing and the others, who had just become saints, were no exception. They were all shocked. Although they had become saints, they did not dare to look at the two figures in the Blood Sea clearly. After all, they had crushed Nuwa back then and gone against Daozu's aura again. They had even gotten Yang Mei involved. Although they did not know how Daozu had died as a saint in the end, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Daoran were the fuse. Is Mosquito Daoran also going to break through to primordial chaos? Looking at the situation in the Blood Sea, everyone could not help but have a thought. Then it rapidly took root and sprouted. For a moment, Sanxing, Nuwa, Jin, Zhuanti, and even Hongjun Tiandao looked so gloomy that it could drip water. This was especially so for the people of Hongjun. Seeing their enemies raise their cultivation right in front of them while they could do nothing about it was not a good feeling. Other than Yang Mei and Ro, the only one who was happy about the desolation was probably 12th Zhu Wu. After all, they were allies. Sanxing and the others became saints one after another, not only to the demon clan, but also to the Wu people. Especially since the Wu people didn't have primordial spirits and only respected Pangu. They didn't even care about Hongjun Tiandao. Although Sanxing came from the same source as them, they didn't think much of each other. Sanxing thought that the Wu people were barbarians, stupid, and brainless. Without a primordial spirit, they couldn't understand the will of heaven and follow the will of the people. Sooner or later, they would meet with an unexpected disaster. Meanwhile, the Wu people thought that Sanxing wasn't that pure, even if he didn't betray their father. He even worshipped Hongjun as his master and followed Hongjun Tiandao blindly, completely forgetting the pride of being a descendant of Pangu. Therefore, apart from the Blood Sea, the Wu people didn't seem to have any allies in the entire world. They didn't even have people or forces that were on good terms with them. The emergence of a saint was equally stressful for the Wu people. In particular, during the previous Great Sorcerer and Demon War, if not for Fang Qingshan, they would have been defeated by Nuwa and the Zhodian Star Array. If Nuwa was like that, there was no need to talk about Sanxing, who was even more powerful than her. Therefore, the fact that Mosquito Dauren had become a mixed essence realm was naturally something to be happy about. After all, they were not allies. Just the irreconcilable conflict between the Blood Sea and the Mystic Sect, and the enemy of an enemy was a friend, was enough to make them happy. Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dauren didn't care about what others thought. After completely devouring the gate of eternal life, Mosquito Dauren didn't understand the destiny law, but the devouring law was perfected. Mosquito Dauren's principal spirit naturally attained the primordial chaos Tao fruit and became a perfected golden immortal. Although he was only at the early stage, he had devoured a connate cardinal treasure after all. Therefore, just like Fang Qingshan, he directly broke through to the peak of the first stage mixed essence realm. Congratulations, congratulations. Congratulations, congratulations. Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dauren looked at each other and laughed out loud. After years of hard cultivation and planning, they had finally achieved Tao today. Now, they only lacked the clone of the World Tree. However, the clone of the World Tree was not far from achieving Tao. The easiest way for the World Tree to break through was to devour the fragments of the World Tree or the origin of various spirit roots. Fang Qingshan had another purpose in coming to the Desolation Realm, which was to find the creation wood for the clone of the World Tree. Legend had it that the creation wood of the Desolation Realm was like a heavenly pillar that could connect the Earth immortal realm and the Heaven realm. The strength of the origin was at least at the peak of the Sage-to-Be, not to mention the cultivation level of the primordial chaos realm. After devouring it, the strength of the clone of the World Tree would probably reach the point where it could break through to the primordial chaos realm. In addition, it would devour millions or even billions of origin powers of other spirit roots, especially the top-notch connate spirit roots and chaotic spirit roots. Fang Qingshan had no doubts about the clone of the World Tree breaking through to the primordial chaos realm. At that time, there would be 3 primordial chaos realms, which would at least increase the success rate for Fang Qingshan to break through to the immortal realm. In addition to the previous 50% success rate, Fang Qingshan's cultivation level had not reached the peak of the 12th stage of the primordial chaos realm, but he already had a 15% success rate, which was almost half the effect of most people. This did not take into account factors such as his own strength, the timeless arc, and so on. It was terrifying to think about it carefully. Mosquito Dauren had not been idle after becoming a saint. Now that Nuwa had become a saint, there was something that should have been done before, and there was no need to delay it anymore. The Azura clan could come into being. In fact, the Azura clan could have come into being long ago. It was just that in the past, the two of them had been busy proving their Tao. Apart from merit, the Azura clans coming into being did not have many practical benefits, so it had been delayed. In addition, at that time, Mosquito Dauren and Fang Qingshan had been hindered by Hongjun Tiandao. Before the human clan came into being, they might have caused them to intervene or even punish them. Now, there was no need to care about this. Not to mention that the Azura clans coming into being was originally in accordance with the heavens and the people. Just the fact that he was not afraid of Hongjun made him have no scruples. However, a good meal was not late. Although the Azura clan had come a little late, compared to the time when the Nether River had created the Azura, Mosquito Dauren's actions now were obviously incomparable. After all, he had a primordial chaos realm cultivation level. The 6 paths of reincarnation had not appeared. Other than naturally dissipating, the souls of the dead in the world could only gather in the Blood Sea. After all, although the Blood Sea was like a snake or a scorpion to the living, it was like a flock of ducks to the dead. Although it was not as good as reincarnation, it was not as good as the Blood Sea. Although it was painful, at least it did not dissipate, and there was still a chance to struggle. Moreover, if the opportunity was good, they might even be able to use the Blood Sea to strengthen their souls and embark on the path of ghost cultivation. Even if they did not take this path, it would be greatly beneficial for them to wait until the Netherworld came into being in the future and be reincarnated. In the Blood Sea, Not to mention the souls of the dead dragons and phoenixes that Mosquito Dowrin had prayed to the Great Way for the sake of merit and luck, just the souls that had voluntarily gathered over the years numbered in the hundreds of millions. Chapter 1032. Since he wanted to create the Azura tribe, it was not perfect, but at least he had to make it as good as possible. After all, the quality of the Azura tribe was directly related to the amount of luck and willpower that Mosquito Dowrin could obtain in the future. Niwa only created people of 1 yuan, and Mosquito Dowrin was no exception. He didn't have Niwa's law of creation, nor did he have the power of Hongjun Tiandao to borrow. If they wanted to create the Azura tribe, they naturally couldn't take the path of Goddess Nviwa, who created something out of nothing. However, since Mingi in the original trajectory could do it, Mosquito Dowrin naturally had another way. He first chose 129,600 souls from the numerous souls in the Blood Sea. There were more than hundreds of millions of souls in the Blood Sea, but Mosquito Dowrin only chose the number of 1 yuan. Perfection was not enough to describe his harshness. This was also because the underworld hadn't been born yet. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many souls for him to choose from. Those with weak soul power, don't choose. Those with deep karma, don't choose. Those with incomplete souls, don't choose. Those with impure souls, don't choose. And those without good fortune, don't choose. After careful selection by Mosquito Dowrin, he chose the souls of 1 yuan, which were the best in all aspects. With the soul, the next step was naturally the flesh and blood. In the Blood Sea, there might not be many other things, but there was definitely a lot of souls and blood. Compared with the careful selection of the souls and the choice of blood, Mosquito Dowrin was much simpler and rougher. He directly used the essence of the Blood Sea to get rid of the karma and filth in it, retaining the killing and ferocious spirit. Everything was ready except for the east wind. But Mosquito Dowrin waved his hand, took out the cauldron of heaven and earth, and threw it. The cauldron of heaven and earth grew in the wind, and in a moment it became the size of a mountain. Mosquito Dowrin first put the souls of 1 yuan and the essence of the Blood Sea into the cauldron of heaven and earth. On the one hand, it was to let them be contaminated with the power of creation, and on the other hand, it was to use the effect of the cauldron of heaven and earth to further enhance the foundation potential of the soul and flesh. 49 days later, Mosquito Dowrin lifted the lid of the heaven and earth cauldron. In an instant, a refreshing fragrance greeted him. It was as if all the impurities in one's body had been swept away, and one's spirit had increased by 100 times. Dense like jade, the fragrance of flesh and blood. First, the souls of 1 yuan flew out. They were full like relics. They shone brightly and emitted a beautiful 7-colored light. They were made of glass, sparkling and translucent, showing a dreamy color. They were shaped like crystals, and they were diamond-shaped. They seemed to have countless faces, giving people a feeling of beauty at first glance. It was as if one's mind was being pulled into it. Ding, ding, ding. They collided with each other, giving off the sound of evening drums and morning bells. This was the power of the soul, and the power of the flesh and blood was not the least bit inferior. However, the essence of flesh and blood, like the power of the soul, had been cut into 1 yuan. Each of them was the size of a bowl, shaped like amber, and completely golden. They were not made of gold, but like the gold of a high-level sacred beast bloodline, or an existence like the golden body of Buddhism. They were filled with a mysterious and holy aura. If the power of the soul was strong enough to interfere with reality and form a dream Dharma realm, these blood essences, however, had a soaring blood aura that could scare even gods away. If a soul came here, without the immortal characteristics of a golden immortal, it would be directly destroyed by the blood aura. The Blood Sea is boundless, with killing as the guide, devouring the heavens and devouring the earth. Fuse. With Mosquito Dowrin's soft voice, the soul relics and the flesh and blood amber began to fuse with each other. In this step, Niwa used the power of the law of creation, while Mosquito Dowrin used the law of blood, the law of massacre, and the law of engulfment. In particular, he had mastered the law of engulfment. Although it was not as unique as the law of creation in creating humans, the potential of the Azura tribe was not inferior to that of the dragon and phoenix tribe. Apart from the human tribe, all the powerful tribes in the universe relied on bloodline inheritance. The Azura tribe was no exception. With the inheritance of the law of engulfment from Mosquito Dowrin, it was not impossible for the Azura tribe to walk out of the mixed essence realm in the future. Putting that aside for now, the combination of the soul and the flesh and blood instantly formed a blood cocoon. At the same time, as the birth of the Azura tribe reached the final step, Hongjun Tiandao felt it. For a moment, the 9 heavens were filled with thunder. Of course, this was not because Hongjun Tiandao could not hold back and wanted to attack Fang Qingshan. Instead, it was because the Azura tribe was too powerful and had incurred the jealousy of heaven. Everyone, who had yet to recover from Mosquito Dowrin's breakthrough to the mixed essence realm, could not help but feel a little numb when they saw the abnormal movements in the Blood Sea again. Despite this, they could not help but want to pry. After all, Blood Sea and Blood Sea were too dangerous, so they had to be careful. Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin did not care about everyone's careful prying. After all, this was not a secret. Moreover, the birth of the Azura tribe was prompted by Hongjun Tiandao. It was the general trend, and the Azura tribe was related to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Is Mosquito Dowrin imitating Niwa's creation? What a shocking foundation. It has attracted the jealousy of heaven even before it is born. What would happen if it were to be born? At first, I thought that the human tribe was already very good. Although they are not strong enough, they are born with Tao bodies, and 6 sages have become sages. However, it seems that this new tribe created by Mosquito Dowrin is not simple. In the past, although Blood Sea was strong, it was only in terms of individual strength. However, after today, its overall strength will probably catch up to that of the sorcerer and demon tribes. No matter how the crowd discussed, the birth of the Azura tribe would not change according to their will. Rumble. After an unknown period of time, it seemed that the power of the thunderbolts had accumulated enough. When the water was full, it would overflow. With a deafening sound, the entire sky split open from the middle, and thousands of thunderbolts and lightning darted out. Although it seemed to have taken a long time, it happened very quickly. Almost at the instant when the thunderbolts landed, they had already arrived above the blood cocoon. All of a sudden, the world turned into white light. Eyes could not see, ears could not hear. Silver-white electric arcs filled the air and crackled. Mosquito Dowrin did not stop this. Firstly, it was not necessary. Although the thunderbolts were fierce, he had more confidence in the Azura he created. If they could not even survive this little bit of thunderbolts, they might as well not be born. Secondly, the thunderbolts were a tribulation and also a predestined fate. Once they survived, the power of creation would also be born. Although Mosquito Dowrin did not care about these thunderbolts, they would be of great benefit to the newly born Azura. Although they could not increase their strength, they could at least increase their potential and foundation. Crack, crack. For a moment, the sound of all living things being awakened could be heard. Cracks appeared on the blood cocoon, and they spread out in all directions like water ripples. At a certain moment, as if it had reached its limit, the blood cocoon suddenly exploded. It revealed the figures within. However, all of these Azura seemed to have displayed their fighting skills or Zhu Wu's real body. There were thousands of them, and there were many of them. Chapter 1033. Some of the Azuras had 9 heads and 1,000 eyes, spitting fire from their mouths, 990 hands, 8 feet, and were as tall as a mountain. Some had 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands, like Guanyin, stepping on the sea and carrying the blue sky on her back. Some had 3 heads and 6 arms, with 3 faces and a strong killing intent. Some had 4 eyes and 4 arms, holding the sun and the moon in their hands, but without exception, they were all very powerful. What was different from the Azura in the original tracks was that the Azura women created by Mosquito Taoist were not enchanting. Instead, they were valiant like women who were not inferior to men. The men were not handsome, but at least they were not ugly. Greetings, patriarch! Greetings, patriarch! Greetings, patriarch! When the Azuras were born, they were even more powerful than the dragons and phoenixes. Ordinary members of the Azura clan were true immortals, and even profound immortals. The more powerful Azura experts broke through to the level of immortal golden immortals. 10 Azura kings even reached the level of primordial unity. As for the Azura sovereign, he was as powerful as Sanqing and the other Khanate gods. He was a terrifying Zenith Heaven golden immortal when he was born. But after thinking about it carefully, it was understandable. After all, the materials, tools, and people used were all the best. If the Azuras created did not achieve such results, Mosquito Dauran would be surprised. The first batch of Azuras were not only powerful, but the blood cocoons that had nurtured them, wrapped them, and finally shattered by the thunder, seemed to have received the power of Khanate creation. They evolved into Khanate weapons, sabers, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, tridents, armors, and magic, and merged into their blood. Natal divine weapon, natal divine ability. They had great potential and could be refined as their cultivation and strength improved. After packing everything up, these Azuras looked at Mosquito Dauran with admiration and worship, just like Wu people and Pangu. They knelt and greeted him loudly. For a moment, their blood and chi soared into the sky, stirring up wind and rain, tearing apart the thunderclouds that had not yet dispersed. From now on, you are the Azura clan. Looking at his work with satisfaction, Mosquito Dauran nodded with a sense of accomplishment. Niwa had comprehended the law of creation when she created humans. Although Mosquito Dauran did not gain as much as Niwa, he had instantly consolidated the emptiness that he had just broken through. His understanding of the law of blood and the law of massacre had also improved tremendously. His understanding of the law of devouring had also improved a little. As Mosquito Dauran's voice fell, merit instantly gathered in the sky. Although it was not as good as Niwa's merit for creating the human race, it was still close to 40%. After all, although Azura was not the main character of the world in the future, it was still one of the 6 paths of reincarnation in the future. In addition, the birth of Azura at this time would also have a certain effect on the recovery of Hongjun Tiandao's origin. With the right time, the right place, and the right people, the merit would naturally not be too little. Azura, 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 Azura. Upon hearing Mosquito Dauran's name, everyone for the Azura clan could not help but shout in unison. For a moment, almost half of Desolation seemed to have faintly heard their voices. One Azura clan. A Zenith Heaven actually appeared as soon as it was born. This is really what a blood sea. First, there were 2 Origin Immortals, and now there's an Azura. The people of Desolation could not help but gasp when they saw the newly born Azura clan. Even Hongjun Tiandao frowned. The more powerful the Azura was, the more helpful it would be for him to recover Hongjun Tiandao's origin. However, he did not forget that the conflict between him and Blood Sea was irreconcilable. Although the Azura clan was not worth mentioning in front of him, its potential was not to be underestimated. Back then, he had underestimated Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Dauran, which was why he could not get rid of them. Unfortunately, even if he was unhappy, he could only endure it. Now that Fang Qingshan's power was established, if Hongjun Tiandao did not want to have a life and death struggle with Fang Qingshan, he could not act recklessly before Hongjun Tiandao's origin was recovered. This feeling was terrible. He could only watch as his enemy's strength continued to increase, but he could only stand by and watch, unable to stop them. As such, Hongjun visited Ro again. He could not endure it any longer, so he decided to speed up the recovery of Hongjun Tiandao's origin. Now that Saint Tian Ding had returned, the integration of the extraterrestrial demonic sky could be put on the agenda. While Hong Jun was tempted to take action, the matter with Blood Sea was not over yet. Seeing the Azura clan's merit descending, Mosquito Dowrin did not put it away. Instead, he flicked his finger, and a golden lotus bloomed. It was none other than the seed of the golden lotus of merit that Fong Qingshan had obtained from Hong Jun in exchange for the immortal slaying sword after the Dragon Phoenix tribulation. Mosquito Dowrin had used the triple light, sacred water, and merit to nurture the seed for many years, and it had already bloomed to the 6th grade. Although it could not be compared to the 12th grade golden lotus of merit that he had, it was still a superior spiritual treasure. Although the 6th grade golden lotus of merit was not bad, it was not enough to catch Mosquito Dowrin's eye. At this moment, he tossed the golden lotus of merit out, intending to use the merit obtained from the Azura clan to continue nurturing the 6th grade golden lotus. Almost 40% of the Azura clan's merit landed on the 6th grade golden lotus. The golden lotus was like rain after a long drought. In an instant, it bloomed to the 7th grade. Then, when about 30% of the 8th grade was consumed, even the 9th grade was successfully nurtured. The 3rd grade was considered inferior grade, the 6th grade was considered intermediate grade, and the 9th grade was considered superior grade. The golden lotus of virtue had become a top-notch, superior, primordial spiritual treasure. However, it was not over yet. When 70% of the merit points were consumed, the 10th stage finally appeared with a half-covered face. This also meant that the golden lotus of merit in Mosquito Dowrin's hand had broken through the superior grade shackles and broken through to supreme grade. When the last 3 grades of merit were completely devoured, the 11th grade was like a sprout of grass. At the same time, in the west on Mount Meru, when Mosquito Dowrin took out the golden lotus of merit, Jiayin sensed it. After all, the two came from the same source. When Mosquito Dowrin's golden lotus of merit broke through to the 11th grade, the 12th grade golden lotus in Jiayin's hand flew uncontrollably to the top of the mountain and shone brightly, resonating with the golden lotus above the Blood Sea. Jiayin felt a sincere sense of joy. This situation was just like the eternal lotus seed and the timeless arc to the everlasting lotus. The lotus seed in Fong Qingshan's hand was the 2nd-generation descendant of the 12th grade golden lotus. Senior brother, Zhuanti almost drooled when he saw that. The Western sect lacked treasures, precious treasures, and supreme treasures to suppress destiny. Although the 12th grade golden lotus was not bad, it was still a connate numinous treasure. If he could obtain the golden lotus of merit in Fong Qingshan's hands and fuse the two, he might be able to break through to become a connate cardinal treasure. At that time, the Western sect would really have the confidence to be comparable to the 3 sects of the Celestial sect. Chapter 1034. Junior brother, don't be greedy. Jane shook his head and opened his mouth slightly, letting out a lion's roar. Zhuanti came to his senses in an instant. Even Hongjun Tiandao did not dare to provoke the Blood Sea, yet Zhuanti dared to covet their treasure. Was he not courting death? Once the Blood Sea became hostile to the West, their weak bodies would not be able to withstand the torment. After being reminded by Jane, Zhuanti came back to his senses. He could not help but break out in a cold sweat and feel a lingering fear. If Buddhism and his senior brother were to suffer, because of him, he would not be able to absolve himself from the blame, even if he died 10,000 times. In fact, when Mosquito Dowrin founded the Azura tribe, Zhuanti had been tempted. After all, in order to perfect the teachings of Buddhism, Zhuanti would establish the 3 realms of Buddha, erect the 3 realms of Buddha, have 4 great bodhisattvas, and establish the 8 groups of heavenly dragons. Among the 8 groups of heavenly dragons, one was Azura. In the original trajectory, Zhuanti Jiayin had taken it from Mingi and converted a portion of the Azuras into Buddhism. However, the current Blood Sea was not the Blood Sea when Mingi was in Mingi. Although he was tempted, Junti could still hold it in. At worst, he could change to another top-notch tribe, such as the Phoenix tribe, the White Tiger tribe, the Black Tortoise tribe, or the Chilan tribe. However, when he saw the Golden Lotus of Merit, and an 11th grade one at that, Junti could not hold it in anymore. After all, the Golden Lotus itself was a symbol of Buddhism. Furthermore, even if the 12th grade Golden Lotus was not fused with it, the 11th grade Golden Lotus itself was also a top-notch spiritual treasure that was not inferior to the wondrous tree of 7 treasures. Regardless of what the two in the West thought, Feng Qingshan nodded in satisfaction at the 11th grade Golden Lotus that had broken through to the Supreme Grade. Although it was just a breakthrough and could not be compared to a 12th grade Golden Lotus, it was enough. After all, Mosquito Dowrin did not have that many merits to break through to the 12th grade. Even if he did, the gains would not make up for the losses. One must know that the merit points obtained from the creation of the Azura tribe could instantly create a sage if it was given to a peak quasi-sage expert who possessed the primordial violet chi. Furthermore, due to the uniqueness of treasures, if the treasure in Feng Qingshan's hand wanted to break through to the 12th grade, unless the 12th grade Golden Lotus in Feng Qingshan's hand broke through to a higher level or was damaged, it would be extremely difficult to break through the shackle. Most importantly, 11 Golden Lotuses were more than enough. However, Mosquito Dowrin recalled the 11th grade Golden Lotus and took out 2 more lotuses, 1 red and 1 black. There were 12 grades of enchanting red. Naturally, it was the accompanying spiritual treasure of the Netherworld River, the treasure that guarded the fate of the Blood Sea, the Red Lotus of Fire. It was a deep black with a 10th grade. It was the Black Lotus of World Destruction. Although it couldn't compare to the 12th grade in Rose hands, it was still in the top grade. Speaking of which, this Black Lotus of World Destruction was also obtained by Mosquito Dowrin in the Dragon Phoenix battlefield with the Immortal Slaying Sword. Back then, during the war between Taoism and Diabolism, Yang Mei only wanted merit and fate. Hongjun almost swept away everything except the 5 elements. Hongjun ate meat, and Mosquito Dowrin drank a mouthful of soup. He obtained the Immortal Slaying Sword and the 3rd grade Black Lotus. He used the Immortal Slaying Sword to trade for the Wuji Apricot Flag and the seed of the Golden Lotus of Merit. However, Hongjun didn't seem to be interested in the 3rd grade Black Lotus, so he didn't trade with him. However, this was exactly what Feng Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin wanted. After all, he had long planned to combine not only the Khanate 5-direction flags, but also the 5-direction Lotus platform. Fortunately, there was a Black Lotus seed in the 3rd grade Black Lotus. Mosquito Dowrin used the Black Lotus seed to breed a new Lotus platform, and the 3rd grade Lotus platform naturally became nourishment. The Blood Sea was not only a sacred place for the Red Lotus of Fire to grow, but also for the Black Lotus of World Destruction. In fact, in addition to the Green Lotus of Creation, the Golden Lotus of Virtue and the White Lotus of Purity were also very beneficial for growing here. The Red Lotus of Fire and the Black Lotus of World Destruction could only digest the filthy evil chi karma in the Blood Sea, while the Golden Lotus of Virtue and the White Lotus of Purity could purify the filthy evil chi karma. However, regardless of whether it was digested or converted, there would be a certain benefit. Mosquito Dowrin used the 3rd grade Black Lotus to nurture the Black Lotus seed, and then planted it in the Blood Sea, nurturing it with the murderous and ferocious chi of the Blood Sea. After many years, it finally broke through to the 10th grade and was ranked as a top grade. Mosquito Dowrin placed the 12th grade Red Lotus of Fire, the 11th grade Golden Lotus of Virtue, and the 10th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction in order. He then took out the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. The Cauldron of Heaven and Earth not only had the function of reversing the Khanate, but also had the effect of returning to the origin. What Mosquito Dowrin needed to do now was to use the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth to return the 11th grade Golden Lotus of Virtue and the 10th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction to the original Green Lotus Chi, and then inject it into the 12th grade Red Lotus of Fire to help it break the shackles and become a supreme treasure. As for why he didn't use the timeless arc, there was no need to use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken. Although the 11th grade Golden Lotus of Virtue and the 10th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction were not bad, they were not even the top primordial spiritual treasures. Naturally, there was no need for Mosquito Dowrin to use the thunderclap flag to smash them when he swallowed the door of eternal life. For a moment, the cauldron of heaven and earth was below, and the 12th grade Red Lotus of World Destruction was above. The 11th grade Golden Lotus of Virtue and the 10th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction were all thrown into the cauldron of heaven and earth by Feng Qingshan. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of chaotic spiritual fire. With his Dharma power, the cauldron of heaven and earth immediately shone with the brilliance of time. In the end, the power of the primordial supreme treasures could be maximized in the hands of a primordial chaos saint. The primordial chaos spiritual fire that Mosquito Dowrin mentioned was not Feng Qingshan's 5-element fire, but a violent, devouring flame. Although it was not as gentle as the 5-element fire, it had a stronger explosive power. With the activation of Mosquito Dowrin's origin spiritual fire and Dharma power, the effect of the cauldron of heaven and earth was magnified to the extreme. The 11th grade Golden Lotus of Virtue and the 10th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction were both top-grade primordial spiritual treasures. After all, the cauldron of heaven and earth alone was enough to suppress them, not to mention the support of Mosquito Dowrin, an expert of the primordial chaos. Therefore, in a short time, traces of the power of destruction and the power of merit were dissolved from the two lotus thrones. Then, under the transformation of the cauldron of heaven and earth, they returned to the origin and became the power of origin with no attribute or the attribute of green lotus. Then, they were transmitted to the 12th grade Red Lotus of World Destruction above. For a moment, the 12th grade Red Lotus of World Destruction shone brightly, and the red light filled the sky, making the entire blood sea seem dim. As it spun, it naturally transmitted a strong devouring power, devouring the power of origin transmitted by the cauldron of heaven and earth as if it was thirsty. Swish, swish, 1, 2, 10, 100. As soon as the power of origin appeared, it was immediately absorbed by the Red Lotus of World Destruction and integrated into it, turning it into the foundation and accumulation of the Red Lotus of World Destruction. The speed was so fast that it was amazing. It was even faster than when Mosquito Dowrin had devoured the gate of immortality, as if it did not need to digest at all. Chapter 1035. Clang, 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 clang. The heavenly sounds were so loud that people couldn't help but be immersed in them. Amazing Taoist, rhymes appeared on the lotus throne. They were so rich and clear that people could feel the rhythm and get endless enlightenment. The newly born members of the Ashura tribe were still muddle-headed at first, but when they heard the heavenly voice and saw the Tao rhythm, they felt as if they had been given a head-on blow. All kinds of information, rules, and ultimacies hidden in their blood surged into their minds, and they fell into a state of enlightenment. Heaven and earth were on their side. This was the right time, place, and people. The Ashura tribe had just been born, and it was the time when the chi of heaven and earth favored them. It was a coincidence that they encountered the 12th grade Red Lotus of Fire. In the cauldron of heaven and earth, the Black Lotus of Destruction and the Golden Lotus of Merit began to disintegrate as the origin energy was taken away. From the 11th and the 10th grade, they began to drop to the 10th and the 9th grade. After devouring so much origin energy, the 12th grade Red Karmic Fire Lotus had become as translucent as jade. It was covered in profound patterns, and the 12 petals were naturally distributed around the lotus, making it seem even more mystical. The power inside was like a river that was blocked by a dam. It was like Sun Wukong, who was trapped under the 5 Elements mountain and was about to break out. It seemed like it would explode in the next moment. However, It was not easy to break the bottleneck of a top-level primordial spiritual treasure and primordial supreme treasure, especially when there was no Hong Meng immortal qi. Although Fang Qingshan still had a Hong Meng immortal qi, Mosquito Darren didn't plan to use it to upgrade the Lotus Throne. For one thing, it was unnecessary. Why did he have to upgrade the Black Lotus of Destruction and the Golden Lotus of Merit to the level of a top-level primordial spiritual treasure? The Golden Lotus of Merit, in particular, had almost used up all the merit he had. If he didn't use it to cultivate the Golden Lotus, he could refine a top-level primordial spiritual treasure. If he used it on a living creature, he could instantly upgrade a person with no cultivation to a sage-to-be, just like the 3 sovereigns of a human tribe. In the end, he still had to cultivate the origin of the lotus and use its powerful origin energy to help the red lotus of fire break the bottleneck. Moreover, although they didn't need the Hong Meng immortal qi anymore, and they didn't plan to give it to the doppelganger of the world tree, its use had already been determined. As for its use, it was a question for another time. Rank 9, Rank 8. When the Golden Lotus of Virtue and the Black Lotus of World Destruction fell once again, the Red Lotus of Karmic Fire seemed to have finally accumulated enough power. Poof! A soft sound rang out. Then, like the awakening of a hibernating insect, the growth of all living things, a small new lotus throne grew out. Although the new first-grade lotus platform was small and immature, its appearance signified that the 12th grade red hellfire lotus had finally broken the shackles between a numinous treasure and a supreme treasure. Buzz, an aura that belonged to a primordial cardinal treasure, burst forth. Rumble. In an instant, the 9 heavens thunderclap appeared in the sky above the blood sea once again. The black cloud pressed down on the city, long like a hanging wing, fast like a shocking rainbow, as it brazenly struck down. This was a cardinal treasure tribulation, just like how one had to face the heavenly punishment when one reached primordial chaos. However, the Khanate cardinal treasure was still within the tolerance range of Hongjun Tiandao, so the power of the heavenly tribulation was much weaker than breaking through to primordial chaos. As for why Fang Qingshan didn't break through in the past, it was because the integration of the 5-element flags and Fang Qingshan broke through to primordial chaos. Previously, they had an agreement with Hongjun Tiandao that breaking through to primordial chaos would not cause the heavenly punishment. In addition, at that time, he had concealed the heavenly secret and did not let Hongjun Tiandao find out. Later, in order to repair the plank road in the open, he had done it secretly. Although he had exposed the supreme treasure, Hongjun thought that he had used the primordial violet qi to create a supreme treasure and cut off the way to break through to primordial chaos, so they let him go. As for now, Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Darren did not care. Just like the previous appearance of the Azura clan, Mosquito Darren did not stop the attack of thunder. The reason was naturally the same. For a moment, the entire blood sea looked dazzling with white light from afar. Between the cold and frost, cold lights floated and thunderclaps rang out. Rumble. The brilliant heavenly power was compressed into a substance within a radius of 10,000 miles. It was like real flowing mercury, floating and empty, stirring up the deepest fear in people's hearts. However, it was of no use. Like the 5-element flags before the 12th grade red lotus of fire broke through, it had been a top-notch Khanate spiritual treasure and a top-notch defensive supreme treasure. Now that the red lotus of fire had become a Khanate supreme treasure, its defensive power was naturally even more amazing. It was probably only slightly inferior to the Tai Chi painting and the Bell of Chaos, but it was probably even better than the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. After all, it was not a pure defensive supreme treasure. As expected, when the thunder struck the red lotus of fire, it did not have any effect at all. It was like a lotus leaf swaying in the wind. It was like throwing a meat bun at a dog, and there was no return. However, the thunder exploded and turned into pure thunder chi, which was directly engulfed by the red lotus of fire. It refined the supreme treasure and strengthened its foundation. the 13th grade, the 14th grade, the 15th grade. At this time, the growth of the red lotus of fire suddenly slowed down. Although the thunder was rumbling, there were still third-grade golden lotuses and third-grade black lotuses left in the cauldron of heaven and earth. However, when the third-grade golden lotuses and black lotuses turned into origin power and merged into the red lotus of fire, it still did not produce the 16th grade. Although Mosquito Dowrin felt that it was a pity, he could accept it. The 15th grade red lotus of fire, which had become a Khanate supreme treasure, had a strong defensive power that was even stronger than the flags of 5 elements. Moreover, the attack power of the hellfire was something that even a mixed essence saint was afraid of. Most importantly, Mosquito Dowrin was currently only using the golden lotuses and black lotuses. He could also use the green lotus of creation and the white lotus of purification to water it. By then, the 15th grade red lotus could continue to grow. By then, it might really be comparable to the 3 treasures of opening the heavens. Great, huh? In the past, the red lotus of hellfire, the black lotus of world destruction, and the golden lotus of virtue were all completely refined by Taoist One. This red lotus of hellfire was also created by him, so he didn't need to refine it before he could completely control it. With a wave of his hand, he took the 15th grade red lotus of fire in his hand and looked it up and down. Mosquito Dowrin nodded in satisfaction. The Azura clan had been created, and the red lotus of fire had advanced to the 15th grade, becoming a Khanate supreme treasure. Striking while the iron was hot, the Azura sect could also be created. In the name of the Great Path, Mosquito Dowrin of the Blood Sea has established a sect with the Azura clan, named the Azura sect. Kill the heavens, kill the earth, and kill all living beings. With the Khanate supreme treasure, the 15th grade red lotus of fire, to suppress the fate of the Azura sect shall be established. As soon as he finished speaking, merit fell from the 9 heavens. However, the merit gained from establishing the Azura sect this time could not be compared to the merit gained from the creation Azura clan. Compared to the merit gained from establishing the sect by Sanqing and the others, it was much lesser. It was only about half of the merit gained from establishing the creation Azura clan. Other than other miscellaneous factors, the most important reason for this was the doctrine of the Azura sect. Kill the heavens, kill the earth, and kill all living beings. It was already good enough that Hongjun Tiandao did not punish such a terrorist. Chapter 1036. Although there was not much merit in establishing a sect, Taoist one did not care about it. Anyway, the golden lotus of merit had been successfully nurtured and swallowed by the red lotus of hellfire. The red lotus of hellfire had also advanced to a supreme treasure. Fangqing Shan, Mosquito Dowrin, and even the clone of the world tree would not use merit to increase their cultivation level. They did not lack cardinal treasures and did not need merit in the short term. Therefore, they did not care much. Most importantly, it was useless to care. They kept this wave of merit and placed it in the treasure realm for the future. The people of the Desolation sect felt that everything that had happened in the Blood Sea was a piece of **T. Was there no end to it? First, it broke through to the primordial chaos realm. Then, it imitated Nua's creation of humans and created the Azura race, which had potential comparable to the dragon and phoenix race. After that, it refined a Khanate cardinal treasure. It was simply attracting hatred. Apart from the newly formed red lotus of hellfire, the known cardinal treasures of the Blood Sea included the primordial sky measuring ruler, the heaven and earth cauldron, the 5-element flag, and the timeless Arkansas. They did not know that the door of eternal life had been devoured by Mosquito Dowrin. If the Blood Sea was not powerful and the demon race had already tested the law, some people would have taken a risk. Putting all this aside, it was now imitating Laozi and the others to establish a sect. The merit came in waves. It made those who could not improve their cultivation level, did not have cardinal treasures, and wanted to earn merit feel envious and jealous. After a long while, seeing that the blood sea did not move, everyone sighed and thought to themselves that it was finally over. From this moment onward, everyone had a numb feeling towards the blood sea. It was as though anything could happen. However, as long as it did not endanger their safety, they did not care about the flood. Even if the sky collapsed, there would be someone to hold it up. When comparing goods, one had to throw them away. As for Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Dowrin, they could not think of anything else, be it envy, jealousy, hatred, or greed. The extraterrestrial demon sky. Although it could not be compared to the Desolation World, it was still a great thousand world and a top-notch great thousand world. This was Dao's compensation for Ro's failure to compete for Hongjun Tiandao's candidate. The entire sky demon domain was in chaos. Calamity, slaughter, demonic light spun in all directions. It was a bizarre and dazzling sight. Desolation could be said to be safe and orderly, with the exception of the Great Calamity, where there were only small-scale battles. In that case, the heavenly demon heaven would have cataclysm happening all the time. Chaotic battles were everywhere, filled with blood, desire, and demonic nature. Desolation was filled with order, but this place was completely chaotic. However, it was also in line with their respective identities. After all, there was a difference between the Tao and the devil. Heavenly Devil Palace. Ro and Hongjun sat down. However, the situation was vastly different. Luo Ho was calm and unruffled, with a faint smile on his face. He did whatever he wanted to do. He was holding a few charming female demons in his arms, flirting with them from time to time, eating a few spiritual fruits that were fed to his mouth, and playing around. Hongjun, on the other hand, had a cold expression on her face. She sat upright and still, completely ignoring Ro's provocations. If not for the increasingly stifling atmosphere in Heavenly Devil Palace, she would not have minded at all. Seeing that the witch was becoming more and more unable to endure the solidifying atmosphere, Luo Ho waved his hand after a long while and got them to retreat. Then, he looked at Hongjun expressionlessly and slowly opened his mouth. Hongjun, are you trying to show off in my sky demon sky? I can promise you a sage position. Hongjun ignored Ro and directly stated her conditions. Hee hee. Ro chuckled. I never thought that you, Hongjun, would have such a day. How delightful. After a pause, Ro shook her head. Leave. I don't care about a sage position. I'm living a carefree life in the sky demon sky. Why should I go to the desolation grounds? Since you're willing to sit here and talk to me, it means that you're willing. You just want to fight for more benefits. What conditions do you have? Tell me. Those who understood you best were not your friends, but your enemies. Who knew Ro better than Hongjun? Hongjun knew that Ro was playing hard to get, so he went straight to the point. Good. Straightforward. When Luo Ho heard this, he did not feel awkward. He pretended to be impressed and then stated his conditions. Since you can't deal with Yang Mei and Mosquito Dowrin, why don't you just give up your position? You want to merge with the path? Hongjun stared at Ro expressionlessly. That's right. Luo Ho looked back at him sincerely. Do you think that's possible? Hongjun's aura began to surge. Why? Before Ro could finish, Hongjun's aura locked onto her, and she could not make a sound. One step slower, and she would always be slower. After Ro lost the Taoist Fiend War, the Sky Demon Sky was compensated by the Great Tao. However, it was sealed by Hongjun Tiandao. The gap between Ro and Hongjun was too obvious. One was stagnant, while the other was soaring. Currently, Hongjun's cultivation level had broken through to the 7th stage primordial chaos. Meanwhile, Ro had just broken through to the primordial chaos realm. He was actually somewhat similar to Hongjun. His origin was intertwined with the Sky Demon Sky, which was why he could break through to the primordial chaos realm despite Hongjun Tiandao's seal. Although they were in their own territory, the gap was too huge. Ro was also completely dominated by Hongjun. What do you say now? After a while, Hongjun retracted his aura. However, he was still surrounding Ro and asked expressionlessly. Although Ro hated him to death, he knew that a wise man knew better than a fight when the odds were against him. There was no need to mention the whimsical request of replacing Hongjun. However, he was still asking for an exorbitant price. It's very simple if you want me to integrate into the desolation. You just need to let me control 20% of Hong Jun Tiandao's origin. 20%? Hong Jun sneered. Integrating the sky, demon sky, into the desolation could indeed strengthen the origin. It was just slightly weaker than the underworld and heavenly realm. However, even sages could only control 2 to 3% of the origin. An enemy actually wanted 10 times that. That was simply wishful thinking. Of course, Hongjun also knew that Ro was asking for an exorbitant price. Hence, he rebutted on the spot. 1%. Impossible. If it's just 1%, I'd rather maintain the status quo. Ro nearly jumped up. Good heavens, this bargaining is a little too ruthless, isn't it? Hee. Maintain the status quo? Hongjun asked with a fake smile. Do you think that's possible? Unite all forces that can be united and attack all forces that can't be united. Following that, Hongjun seemed to be mumbling to himself. Hearing this, Ro felt a chill down his spine. He knew that if he really rejected Hongjun, he would not be able to be kind today. At the end of the day, he didn't want to clash head-on with Hongjun. After all, he had no choice but to lower his head. Moreover, if he could integrate into the desolation, he would also benefit greatly. Otherwise, if this dragged on, forget about Hongjun, he might not even be able to deal with Sanqing and the rest in the future. However, integrating into the desolation wasn't something that could be done casually. At the very least, there must be sufficient benefits. After all, compared to him, Hongjun's situation was obviously worse. Chapter 1037. The enemy was strong while he was weak. The enemy was weak while he was strong. If he didn't take this opportunity to get a share of the pie, when would he be waiting for it? It just so happened that his cultivation was too far behind that of Hongjun. If he fought for more benefits now, he would be able to improve his strength faster and better. Otherwise, when would he see any hope of catching up? As for whether Hongjun would fly into a rage out of humiliation and break up with him, or even resort to violence against him, Ro was very certain about this. As long as he didn't cut off Hongjun's roots like before and didn't make unreasonable requests, even if he took advantage of them, Hongjun could only pinch their noses and accept it. After all, it wouldn't do Hongjun any good if they really fought to the death, right? Even if they forcefully merged with Sky Demon Sky, the benefits they would obtain would only be leftovers. The losses outweighed the gains. After a round of bargaining, Ro and Hongjun finally achieved their respective goals. However, both of them didn't look too good. They both felt that they had suffered a loss. However, one of them had strong enemies like Fang Qingshan, Mosquito Daoran, and Yang made a deal with. They could only let Ro take advantage of them. One of them was under someone else's roof and had no choice but to lower their heads. They would stop after taking advantage of them. They didn't dare to push their luck and go too far. Both sides restrained themselves and achieved their goals. As Hongjun and Ro came to an agreement, Sky Demon Sky's integration with Desolation was also brought forward. Seeing that Mosquito Daoran and Fang Qingshan's strength was improving day by day, Hongjun didn't want to wait a moment longer. Ro was naturally the same. After all, the earlier they integrated with Desolation, the earlier they could improve their strength. Both sides hit it off. What's going on? Why do I feel my eyelids twitching? My heart is beating so fast that it feels like it's going to jump out. Did something bad happen? Could it be that a calamity is about to begin? Could it be that the two from Bloodsea are going to take over the world? That's not right either. This divination seems to be a blessing in disguise. Just as Hongjun and Ro had finalized everything, everyone in Desolation felt a chill down their spines. However, when he pinched his fingers and divined the secrets of the heavens, he discovered that there was life in death. When things reached an extreme, they would move in the opposite direction. Although there was a calamity, the final result was good. Buzz. Before they could figure out what was going on, at a certain moment, a dull sound began to ring out without warning. This sound was like the sound of a rushing river, but it also seemed like some terrifying beast was awakening and letting out a terrifying roar. The invisible aura it emitted caused countless living beings to become irritable. Earthquake. An earthquake that affected the whole of desolation began. This time, it seemed to have returned to the time when Hongjun had fallen and Hongjun Tiandao had suffered heavy losses during the previous Chaos War. The entire land of desolation began to ripple like waves in the ocean. The seismic waves were getting higher and higher. The intense tremors caused the living beings with low cultivation bases on the ground, as well as the rocks and trees that were not sturdy enough to be thrown high into the sky like kites with broken strings. That was not all. Following that, the ground began to crack, as if the Earth's crust was moving and the tectonic plates were separating. Cracks appeared crazily like spider webs, and they swept out in all directions at an inhuman speed. The ferocious cracks were like ancient poisonous dragons, causing people's organs to tremble as they devoured everything that could be devoured. Pillars of earth fire that seemed to reach the heavens erupted from the bottom to the top, burning the heavens and destroying the earth. Anything that was swept by the earth fire would turn a genuine immortal into charcoal, while those below heaven immortal would turn into ashes on the spot. For a moment, the entire world was filled with a tragic aura. Since there was a crack in the earth, there was no lack of a collapse in the sky. Crack. Unknowingly, the void had turned dark. This was not due to dark clouds covering the city, but because all light had disappeared. The light of the sun, the moon, and the stars seemed to have been devoured. Through the pillars of heaven fire on the ground, one could see that the sky had collapsed. The void cracked like the earth, and the cracks were like the cracks of porcelain. It was clear and shocking. The earth had earth fire, and the sky had heavenly fire. Streams of heavenly fire poured down from the cracks like water from the heavenly river. Not only did heavenly fire burn the plains, but stars also fell. Of course, the stars that fell were small planets, meteorites, and so on. The main and secondary stars of the primordial era were still very strong. For a moment, the entire land of desolation was in dire straits. Countless living beings died because of this. Fortunately, the situation was soon alleviated. Freeze! At that moment, Laozi took a step out of Mount Kunlun. He raised his hand and tossed out the Taiji diagram. A white, jade, golden bridge flew across the sky, instantly freezing most of the east. Freeze! At the same time, Primordial Lord of Heaven, Tantian, Jin, Juanti, and Nuwa made their moves. They had already received guidance from Hongjun regarding this so-called disaster, so they did not panic. Seeing that the world was in chaos, as the saints of Heaven Mu show, they naturally had the responsibility to stabilize the world. Moreover, helping Hongjun Tiandao stabilize the land of desolation and save the people would also earn merit points. Jin and Juni took out the 12th stage Golden Lotus and the Bodhi tree to stabilize the entire West. Primordial Lord of Heaven took out the Pangu banner, and Nuwa took out the Golden Wheel of Merit, stabilizing the entire South. Tongtian set up the Immortal Slaying Sword Array to stabilize the entire North. Of course, the Saints only took action to stabilize the overall situation. As for the local turmoil, naturally, someone else would take action. Seeing that the Saints had taken action, the various powerful beings of the side also made their moves. Xinyuanzi took out the Book of Earth. Hongyun took out the 99 Soul Dispersing Gourd. The Duke of the East took out the Innumerable Immortal Array, and the Queen Mother of the West took out the Kunlun Mirror. In addition to these Khanate gods, the various major forces naturally took action as well. The Demon Clan set up the 33 Heavens Array and the Zodion Star Array to stabilize the primeval starry sky and heaven realm. Wu people's Pangu, true form, also stabilized the area within 1,000,000 miles of Mount Buzhou. The Dragon Clan of the Four Seas also took out the 10,000 Dragons Greeting Array. The Phoenix Clan stabilized the Undying Volcano, and the Qilin Clan suppressed Middle Earth with their help. The entire world finally stabilized. Whoosh! Just as the world stabilized, there was another change in the world. A supreme aura swept out. The people of desolation were no strangers to this aura. Whether it was when Hong Jun became a saint, fused with the Tao, or when the great Tao retired, they had all seen it. Hong Jun Tiandao. As expected, in a breath, a golden eye appeared out of thin air, materializing from illusion. The eye of Hong Jun Tiandao. In an instant, a wave of merciless indifference seemed to penetrate everyone's mind. Even so, everyone suppressed their fear and stared at the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao. This was because this golden eye was formed by countless mysterious divine chains of the nomological laws. Anyone who could comprehend even a little bit of it would be an opportunity for all living beings. Back then, when Hong Jun Tiandao was born, the nomological laws manifested, and many experts were created. Of course, there was no such thing as a free lunch in the sky. To wear the crown, one must bear its weight. If one wanted to comprehend the nomological laws of Hong Jun Tiandao, one must also bear the pressure of Hong Jun Tiandao. Chapter 1038. The Eye of Hong Jun Tiandao. Not only did it exude a supreme and inviolable aura, but it also displayed the thousands of nomological laws that all living beings dreamed of. At the same time, it also had an unparalleled and endless majesty. It was fine if they did not stare at the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao. This was a sign of submission. Hong Jun Tiandao was not a living being, but it had its own will. All living beings who wanted to spy on the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao seemed to be provoking Hong Jun Tiandao. At this moment, it felt like climbing Mount Buzhou in primordial times. Their bodies felt heavy, as if they were being imposed by invisible shackles and shouldering huge pressure. However, there would be rewards if there was effort. As long as one could withstand the majesty of the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao and observe the nomological laws, there would always be some gains. However, the amount of gains would depend on one's fate. Putting this aside, the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao was the same to people below the primordial chaos, just like it had been in the past. However, in the eyes of the primordial chaos age, he could see that the eye of Hong Jun Tiandao was not strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Instead, it was somewhat weak. This was naturally due to the successive deaths of Nuwa and Hong Jun. In addition, Hong Jun Tiandao itself had been punished by the everlasting lotus. Even with the birth of the sage, Hong Jun Tiandao's origin had not been fully restored. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Not to mention that most of Hong Jun Tiandao's origin had been restored. Even if it was not, it had an unreachable majesty to everyone except Fong Qingshan and Yang Mei. It made people unconsciously feel awe and could not resist it. It wasn't that they couldn't resist, but they knew their limits. Before the Heaven Tao, they were truly ants, and it was even to the extent that they were inferior to ants. Their strength couldn't be compared at all, and if they were to really be targeted, then even if they possessed numerous trump cards, they would still be easily crushed. The two were not on the same level at all. This was normal. Whether it was Sanqing, Nuwa, Zhuanti, or Jing, they had all broken through to the sage realm. However, sages had entrusted their primordial spirits to Hong Jun Tiandao and were naturally restrained by Hong Jun Tiandao. Hong Jun Tiandao's cultivation level was above the 12th stage primordial chaos, while the most powerful person among them, Laozi, was only at the peak first stage primordial chaos. There was no comparison between the two of them. When the Hong Jun Tiandao's eye appeared, a sector near the desolation world's barrier materialized. If it wasn't the extraterrestrial heavenly demon heavens, then what was it? However, it was pitch black and oppressive everywhere. Anyone who looked at it would feel a terrible negative emotion. The Saint of Origin was no exception. It seemed to be even more dangerous and bizarre than the Blood Sea. Demons danced chaotically, demonic flames overflowing to the heavens. Similarly, there was a Hong Jun Tiandao's eye in the world. However, the difference between this Hong Jun Tiandao's eye and the Hong Jun Tiandao's eye in the desolation world was like the difference between a firefly and the bright moon. After all, the desolation world was created by Pangu. It was the best among the desolation worlds and was only one step away from the chaos world. Although the heavenly fiend sky was considered powerful in the sector, it was obviously not on the same level as the desolation world. Moreover, the Hongjun Tiandao's eye in the desolation world was golden. At first glance, it was filled with awe-inspiring righteousness and made Hongjun Tiandao brilliant. The heavenly demonic sky's eye of the heavenly Tao was completely pitch black, and it was so deep that it instilled fear in others. It was like the end of the world, and boundless ruthlessness and coldness were emitted from its eyes. If anyone dared to peek at it, they would probably either be killed by it or suffer from inner demons and chi deviation. Of course, this was only for people below the primordial chaos world. As long as people above the primordial chaos world were careful, they would be fine. Since this was the case for primordial chaos world, nothing would happen to the desolation world's Hongjun Tiandao. Moreover, when the heavenly fiend sky's Hongjun Tiandao's will met the desolation world's Hongjun Tiandao's will, it was like a mouse meeting a cat, a scale armor meeting a dragon, a bird meeting a phoenix, and a beast meeting a Qilin. There was a natural suppression in terms of levels. It could not cause any waves at all. Of course, there was no need to cause any waves. This was because the desolation world's Hongjun Tiandao was not devouring the Hongjun Tiandao of the heavenly fiend sky, but integrating it. The world barrier of the desolation world squirmed like a fluid and then enveloped the entire heavenly fiend sky bit by bit. Meanwhile, the golden Hongjun Tiandao's I shot out a divine light and pulled the black heavenly fiend sky's eye over bit by bit. As the heavenly fiend sky was assimilated bit by the desolation world, the heavenly fiend sky's I was also digested bit by the Hongjun Tiandao's eye. Even if the two worlds were actively integrating, there would still be sparks during the mutual wear and tear. Hence, various natural disasters had occurred in the desolation world previously. It was not just the desolation world. As the one being integrated, the heavenly fiend sky was even more intense. However, great disasters were happening in the heavenly fiend sky at all times. Hence, a little more and a little less didn't matter. Ro did not care at all. The other heavenly fiend creatures had also adapted to natural selection and survival of the fittest. As for those who were not fit, even if they did not die now, they would die sooner or later. However, this was not the case in the desolation world. After all, if too many living creatures died, not to mention karma, it would damage the source of Hongjun Tiandao. Hence, when the heavenly fiend sky was integrated, Hongjun Tiandao had no time to care about the desolation world. That was why the sages acted on behalf of the heavens and suppressed the world. However, as long as the Hongjun Tiandao in the desolation world completely devoured and digested the heavenly fiend sky, not only would all the disasters be swept away, but all living creatures that survived until then would more or less obtain a fortuitous encounter. After all, this was equivalent to a great disaster. Since it was a disaster, it was accompanied by fate. Of course, this sort of fortuitous encounter was only suitable for those with low cultivation. The lower the cultivation, the higher the providence and comprehension, the greater the harvest. On the other hand, the harvest would naturally be minuscule. Time passed bit by bit. It seemed like only a moment had passed, but it also seemed like thousands of years had passed. Everyone no longer had much sense of time. However, they discovered that the pressure from the Hongjun Tiandao was getting heavier and heavier. The laws within the Hongjun Tiandao were getting more and more profound, and they were getting more and more intoxicated. Of course, this was because the Hongjun Tiandao had devoured the heavenly fiend eye, and its source had been repaired and strengthened. However, it was just like when one had just broken through and could not completely control one's own power for a while. So some of it had dissipated. This was why everyone could feel the pressure getting heavier and heavier, but they could still comprehend it. Buzz. At a certain moment, the entire world trembled. The sages who had taken out their treasures to stabilize the world suddenly felt their bodies lighten, and all kinds of natural disasters disappeared in an instant. Those who did not know would have thought that nothing had happened. This was because the world of desolation had completely assimilated and digested the heavenly fiend sky. The world of desolation was once again under the control of Hongjun Tiandao. The natural disasters that had erupted because of the assimilation were naturally smoothed out by Hongjun Tiandao, dissipating into nothingness. Buzz. Flowers fell from the sky, and golden lotuses appeared on the ground. Purple aura came from the east, an auspicious aura enshrouded the world of desolation. Dragons and phoenixes danced, and hundreds of beasts cried out in unison. The whole world celebrated. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Torrential rain shot out from the Hongjun Tiandao Eye, sprinkling all over the world of desolation. Of course, this rain was not ordinary rain, but the sweet dew of creation. Once it landed on the bodies of living beings or non-living beings, it quickly drilled into them. If they were living beings, they would improve their cultivation, aptitude, and comprehension. If they were non-living beings, they would unlock spiritual wisdom and increase their potential. Chapter 1039. Wisdom Bestowal. The sweet dew of good fortune fell into the bodies of all living beings. Spiritual energy surged and swarmed into them. There was no need to refine it. It was as if it was the result of years of cultivation. More importantly, the Taoist aura, which used to be shrouded in mist and clouds, was now completely unguarded. It was open to them without any concealment. It was laid bare before their eyes. In an instant, it was just like when Hongjun Tiandao was born. Countless spiritual roots and spiritual beasts gained sentience and embarked on the path of cultivation. Countless cultivators broke through their shackles and achieved great progress. I, Ro, will establish the demon sect today. I will use the ancient demon gate to suppress the demon sect's fate. Demon sect established. While all living beings were still digesting the good fortune of Hongjun Tiandao's reward, Ro walked out of the sky demon sky. Although the sky demon sky was integrated into the desolation group, it was like the 33 heavens and the underworld, a separate entity. The relationship between them was like a subsidiary company in a group. Although the Sky Demon Company was acquired by the Desolation Group, Ro was still the general manager of the Sky Demon Company. Ro was indeed the reincarnation of the Chaos Demon God. He was the only one who could compete with Hongjun back then. Although he had lost by a single move in the Taoist Fiend War back then, it was not his fault. After all, in the end, Hongjun borrowed the power of the Way of Heaven, invited Yang Mei, and opened to cheat. Furthermore, even though he had failed, he had not suffered a crushing defeat and was unable to recover from it. Not only did he transform into an extraterritorial heavenly devil, but he also obtained a devil sect's supreme treasure, the ancient Devil Gate. Although it couldn't compare to the Good Fortune Jade Archive, it was still on the same level as the Life and Death Gourd. Especially after Ro transformed into the Demon Lord, this treasure was more compatible with his path than the Godslayer and the Black Lotus of Annihilation. Following Luo Ho's words, a bright and dazzling golden merit cloud appeared in the sky once again. It was no less than the Buddhist and Xianmen sects, and even more than the Shura sect. This was because the Buddhist, Taoist, and demon sects faced all living beings in the world. As long as you met their requirements, you could become a disciple. However, the Shura sect was different. It was a sect that only targeted the Shura of the Shura clan. Rather than calling it a sect, it was more like a family force. As for establishing a sect and educating all living beings, although there would be merit to be gained, the larger the scope of education, the more merit one would receive, and the more one would receive. Unless one day, the Shura clan replaced the human race and became the main character of the world. Only then would the Shura sect be able to rule the world. But on this day, unless he completely crushed Hongjun of the heavenly law, he could forget about it. Putting aside the question of whether Fong Qingshan could do this, even if he could, he would have already looked down on the untainted land. He he would have already left for a higher-level chaotic world. The Desolation sect was not a good thing for Hong Jun Tiandao. Even if he could, he would not care about the Desolation sect anymore. However, for the Desolation sect, for those below the Grand Luo realm, and even for those with a bad temperament, it was not necessarily a good thing. That was because Ro announced another thing after the establishment of the demon sect. It perfected the heavenly tribulations. Although there was no lightning tribulation other than the mixed origin heavenly punishment, Ro brought out the inner demon tribulation in advance. Anyone who broke through a major realm, such as becoming an immortal, becoming a golden immortal, or transcending fate, would have to face the sky demon tribulation. Naturally, there was no need to talk about passing it. But if he didn't, there were two paths he could take. The first was to completely demonize and fall into the demonic sky. The second was to die and start all over again. Of course, the sky demon tribulation was not only present during the heavenly tribulations. Even during normal cultivation, if one's temperament was not up to standard, or if one was greedy for achievements, one would be tainted by the demonic nature. If there were any changes, or at a critical moment, it was very easy for one to stray into the demonic path. Back when the two in the West became sages, they wanted to turn all living beings into Buddhists. Sanqing and the rest did not allow it. Now, Ro wanted to demonize the world and plant demonic nature in everyone's hearts. This was naturally not allowed by anyone. Amipa, the demonic sea is boundless. Repent, and you'll be saved. Let go of the demonic nature and become a Buddha. In the face of such a situation, the Western sect and Juni's guidance released the Lion Roar, Thunder Roar, Golden Body, and Sarira Light. For a time, the entire West was filled with Buddhist chants, followed by morning bells and evening drums. The West, which was bathed in Buddhist light, instantly wiped out most of the demonic nature that had just appeared. However, those that were not wiped out hid even deeper. Juni's guidance could not do anything about that. After all, there was evil when there was righteousness, darkness when there was light, and demons when there was Buddha, especially since the West used to be the base camp of the demonic sections. Mount Meru was also Ro's place of worship. It was not just the West. The East, the Taoist sect, the demon race, and anyone who had the ability to resist would obviously not allow such a time bomb to appear. For a time, the 8 immortals crossed the sea and displayed their abilities. Laozi took out the mysterious yellow, exquisite pagoda of heaven and earth. Under the golden light of merit, it was even more effective against the demonic nature than the Buddhist light. The primordial lord of heaven and earth and the Grand Master of heaven took out the Pangu banner and the 4 celestial slaying swords respectively. No matter what demonic nature it was, with one slash, it was even more domineering than the Buddhist light and merit. In the demon race, other than Nuwa who used the golden wheel of merit, Dongwang Tai also sounded the bell of chaos. Dragon roars shook the heavens and the 4 seas. Phoenix cries in the 9 heavens in the south. The only ones who did not see the demonic nature were Wu people and Blood Sea. Wu people had the heaven creation divine aura. Even if Ro personally made a move and specifically targeted Wu people, the effect might not be that good, let alone being tainted by the demonic nature. Blood Sea and Wu people were almost the same. Although they did not have the heaven creation divine aura, the Blood Sea was the place where the filth of the world gathered. So what if there was a little more demonic nature? Others would turn pale at the mention of evil aura, filth, and demonic nature, and avoid them like snakes and scorpions. To them, it was normal. They might even be able to use it to increase their cultivation. Ro did not care about how the other forces reacted, because the Buddhist Tao would have a personality requirement when accepting disciples, but the devil cult did not. They really did not discriminate and open the door wide. As long as you were willing to sink in, you would be a disciple of the devil cult. He casually sowed a seed. As for the result, he did not care at all. Maybe it would give him a surprise, or maybe nothing. Who knew? For a time, although the devil cult was established later than the Taoist sect and the Buddhist sect, it started to grow stronger at a visible speed. The three Taoist sects, the Buddhist sect, the demon race, the dragon race, the phoenix race, and the other races all started to feel the pressure. The three Taoist sects and the Buddhist sect were still fine. They had not accepted disciples yet. However, the human race was in trouble. Because the human race had not been born for long, their temperament was like a piece of white paper. Their strength was also lacking. Once they were tainted by the demonic nature, they would be demonized. Chapter 1040. The human tribe was related to the sage orthodoxy, their future fate, and their cultivation. Not long after, the three pure ones, Zhuan-Ti, Niuhua, Sui-Renshi, and the others discovered that the demonic nature was about to be eradicated. They were instantly shocked. Merit, Buddhist light, Tao runes, and all sorts of methods were used. They hurriedly joined forces to eliminate the demonic nature. If they were any later, most of the human tribe would have fallen into the arms of the evil sect. At that time, they would be crying without tears. Not only the human tribe, but the demon tribe, Dragon Phoenix, Peng Lai, and other forces were no exception. Although the evil sect was targeted by most of the forces, it still developed rapidly, almost like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. In the face of the pressure and invasion of the evil sect, all forces had to use methods to increase their strength to deal with the sudden changes. Medicine can't cure diseases, and Buddha can help those who are fated. Today, Buddhism opens its doors. Anyone who is fated can enter my nirvana by chanting the name of Amitabha. I am Lord, primordial Lord of Heaven. Today, I set up a big formation in Kunlun Mountain. Anyone who passes it can become my direct disciple. Primordial Lord of Heaven and Zhuan-Yi started to openly accept disciples. Laozi and Tong-Tian, on the other hand, were traveling in desolation and would only take action if they were fated. However, the concept of fate between the two was completely different. Laozi really depended on fate, and he would not accept anyone who was not fated. As for Tong-Tian, as long as there was a trace of fate, he would accept them all. Therefore, along the way, Laozi only accepted one disciple, and there was already a lot of people around Tong-Tian. However, one of them had high cultivation and 2 treasures, and the other had one of the 3 great formations of desolation, the fairy slaying sword formation, which could not be broken by anyone except the 4 sages. Therefore, they were not very worried about the problem of disciples. At this moment, there was an unexpected but reasonable group of people who came to the Blood Sea. This group of people was Hong Jun and Niuhua. So it's Daozu and Lady Niuhua. It's truly an honor to have the 2 sages here. The 2 of them from Hong Jun did not conceal themselves. Once they arrived at the Blood Sea, they were naturally discovered by Fong Qingshan and Mosquito Daoren. After walking out of the small world in the Sea of Blood, he cupped his hands and spoke casually. May I know the reason for your visit today? 1,000 cups are too little when drinking with a bosom friend, but half a sentence is too much when the conversation is not congenial. Although everyone was restraining themselves, since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, there was no need for pleasantries. Fong Qingshan went straight to the point. I have come here today for one thing. Since the 2 of them hated each other, Hong Jun didn't want to talk to Fong Qingshan anymore, so he went straight to the point. The Taoist took away Niuhua's numinous treasure in the heavenly court. Is it time to return it to her? Still, Fong Qingshan chuckled. It's my spoils of war. Why should I return it? Does Daozu also want to return the immortal slaying sword formation, the God Slayer, and the Black Lotus of world destruction to the demonic ancestor? Although Niuhua was furious with Fong Qingshan's words, she didn't say anything. Hong Jun wasn't surprised. The reason why he asked Fong Qingshan to return, it was just to give it a try. There was still hope. What if it turned out to be a ghost? Fellow Taoist, if you have any requests, please state them, Hong Jun said calmly. Okay. Fong Qingshan nodded and didn't refuse. I've always been a very fair person. I don't cheat or extort you. Since you want to redeem the numinous treasure, then take out something of equivalent value. Lotus lamp, 5-colored stone, stately painting, red hydrangea, man-making whip. Which one do you want to redeem? With that, Fang Qingshan waved his hand and took out Nua's treasures. Looking at the numinous treasure radiating with light, Nua almost couldn't hold it in. Her eyes glowed red as she stared at Fang Qingshan, wishing she could eat him alive. Stately painting, red hydrangea, and five-colored stone. Hong Jun fell silent for a moment. Although Hong Jun Tiandao had recovered a lot due to the appearance of the sage and the integration of the extraterrestrial demon sky, it was at most comparable to before it was damaged. Even if it was strong, it was still limited. He didn't have full confidence in dealing with Mosquito Daoren and Yang Mei and Fang Qingshan. He couldn't start a war with Fang Qingshan for no reason just because of Nua's treasures. Since he couldn't fight, he could only follow Fang Qingshan's rules. Hong Jun waved his hand, took out a pile of treasures, and said indifferently. He said calmly, 2 top-notch numinous treasures and 1 top-notch spiritual material. Choose. Hong Jun Tiandao. No wonder you're the number 1 nouveau riche in the desolation world. Fang Qingshan and Mosquito Daoren couldn't help but sigh when they saw Hong Jun throw out dozens of numinous treasures and spiritual material. Hong Jun had taken out so many treasures during the Purple Cloud Palace's treasure distribution. They thought that other than the Creation Jade Plate, the Purple Cloud Palace, and the God Slayer, he wouldn't have any more numinous treasures. They didn't expect that poverty would limit their thinking. Not to mention the top-notch spiritual material, just the number of treasures that he took out that were comparable to a top-notch primordial numinous treasure like the red hydrangea could be counted on 2 hands. Fang Qingshan recognized the heavenly book, the investiture of the gods, the holy whip, the underworld book of life and death, the judge's brush, the reversal, yin and yang, and the ancestor of heaven and earth. In fact, Fang Qingshan wouldn't agree to trade numinous treasures with Hong Jun. After all, even if it was a trade, he wouldn't ask the Lion Dragon King for it. In that case, at most, he would get numinous treasures of the same level. The quantity and quality wouldn't change. What was the difference between trading or not? Moreover, once it was returned to Nua, it could enhance Nua's strength, which was equivalent to helping the enemy. After all, Fang Qingshan knew that the red hydrangea could allow Nua to preside over the heaven, earth, and man triad, and she could obtain marriage merit. The 5-colored stone was related to the heaven replenishing merit. However, Fang Qingshan didn't want to provoke Hong Jun if he didn't have to fight him. What he needed was a stable environment to improve himself. When he couldn't go any further, he would head to the chaos, to the myriad worlds, and even to the primordial lands. Most importantly, even if he had Yang Mei and the Timeless Ark, if he fought with Hong Jun, both sides would suffer. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. Therefore, he couldn't make things difficult for Hong Jun just for a few numinous treasures. Moreover, even if Nua got these numinous treasures, so what if there was merit? In the entire desolation, other than Hong Jun Tiandao and Yang Mei, there was no one else in Fang Qingshan's eyes. Even if it was Ro, he was no exception. Of course, there was another reason why he agreed to the trade. Hong Jun also had something he needed. At the moment, for Fang Qingshan, there were still some numinous treasures and spiritual items that were of great significance to him. For example, the Wood of Creation, which was related to the improvement of the World Tree's strength. For example, the Green Lotus of Creation and the White Lotus of Purification were related to the subsequent improvement of the Red Lotus of Hellfire. For example, the Book of Life and Death and the Judge's Pen, which were already in Fang Qingshan's pocket. Although they weren't necessarily of a higher grade than the Red Hydrangea and the Map of Mountains and Rivers, they were more powerful. But for Fang Qingshan, they were more important. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.